Here already?
Well, good morning. Yeah, I've been listening to your description of, I'm assuming, a radio show.
Banter, yes. About.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well, I leave my video off because apparently when I have my video on, people can't really hear me.
Oh.
So you guys just get my fancy picture of me in a field, apparently.
Okay. So we can either see you or hear you, but not both.
I'd say you could probably hear me. If you can see me, it'll be frozen, jumpy, good stuff. We're still working on that rural broadband.
Yes.
Thing.
That's good.
So
go ahead. Sir.
Yeah, no, it's a great setup. But, keep working on. An interesting note. My grandparents are actually moving right now, and I found an old lobbying binder from my grandpa, and this was from 1998. And it was really interesting because I found a whole breakdown of fair funding and everything. And the weird part is these policy statements that they were advocating for back then are basically the exact same thing that we put out today. A quick note to progress, I guess, right?
Yes, I guess.
So it's a little bit demoralizing that the legislature just doesn't listen altogether, but that happens. Speaking of not listening, I've got a really interesting bit of information for you guys as we go through this. I'll just kind of give you an overview here of a lot of the field. I mean, you guys know the bills that are happening and everything going on there, so I'll just run you down a few things that have happened, and of course you guys already know some of it, but there's a little bit of background that might be beneficial. So the first thing I'll start with is the Blake decision, and we're talking about the ruling from the Supreme Court here that basically said that if you were incarcerated for possession of an illicit drug or a controlled substance, the Washington law was unconstitutional. So they're basically having to let a whole bunch of people out of jail or shorten sentences and things like that. Well, anytime you shorten a sentence, because a lot of these sentences were maybe lengthened or exacerbated by the fact that somebody had drugs on them, it's turning out that it looks like the state is going to be on the hook for a lot of the cost of that, a lot of those fees. So what that's done is that's really given a lot of pause to the conversation around any of these judicial reform bills. They're going, well, hold on a second, the state's on the hook for these. We don't have the money for this. At least what this has done has lent a little bit of reason to the conversation and basically just kind of brought at least just a little bit of pace to this, and what I mean by that is, sitting there banging their hands on the table saying, banging a fist on the table, go, we have to get this done. They go, well, we really want to get this done. We just got to figure out how to do it. So at least we have some reason in the conversation with that respect. That kind of carries over here into a lot of the criminal justice reform bills in conversation. A lot of those have slowed down, partially because of the Blake decision and the fact that they realize that these things are costly and difficult to implement, but also because as we're seeing in cities like New York is a great example right now. They did a pretty broad sweeping defund the police in New York, and now they're seeing crime rates go up, violent crime go up, assaults go up. Everything is increasing in terms of crime, and they don't really know what to do about it. So it's a real world example they can point to and say, this is what happens when you defund the police. And so it's at least given a small voice of reason to the conversation. So, well, maybe we better slow down and address these concerns. The other thing that we're looking at, and we don't have a whole lot of time, so I'll move pretty quickly through these. The 988 bill, which is House Bill 1477. 988 number is the mental health number that's mandated by the federal government that has to be in place by middle of the year, June, July next year. And there's been a big push to get this thing implemented here. The conversation and here in this year. And the conversation around that has really kind of taken on a little bit more of a reasonable tune because they're realizing that, I mean, they were trying to implement everything and put the people in place and the call centers and the response teams and everything. And I think they're realizing that it's just not realistic to do that. And there's a real world question behind these 988 numbers. And should they be considered an emergency number? And the example that's given on that is, let's say you have an individual who is standing on a bridge and threatening to jump. Yes, that is a mental health emergency. However, if the person jumps, there's going to be injuries, or there's, that you need to do traffic control. I mean, you got to intervene. And the question arises, is 988 the correct number to call in that situation? While it is, yes, a mental health emergency, you don't have access through the 988 number because it has to be completely independent from any of your emergency services or dispatch or anything like that. You don't have access to emergency services. So is it a good idea to call a 988 number, which could just be an impediment here, another step in the line, while 988 calls 911 for you when seconds count? So that's a big question that's kind of being asked right now. And how does that work? So I guess my take on it is, no matter what they do with the 988 number this year, there's a lot of education to be done. There's a lot of infrastructure to put in place and a lot of expenditures that need to be made. And no matter how they do that, they're going to come back next year and have to fix it. Now, there's really no way around it unless they just do a pure study bill this year, which they're not going to do. So it may end up where they do a study and then you guys literally put like a rotary phone in the corner that nobody's going to call because nobody knows it exists. So we'll see what that turns out to be. It's not, I mean, it could be a little bit costly, but there's, the deadline is the middle of next year, so we've got some time. The other one is 1152, which is the health districts, regional health districts. They're still messing around with your local board of health. We don't like that. Really what it comes down to, very simply, is like you as a board of commissioners, they're not adding construction workers, they're not adding home builders, they're not adding, road pavers, all these things to your board of commissioners, because the point of having a board is literally you guys get to make an informed decision. You don't have to know everything about everything. You just need to know where to find the information. And that's kind of the argument here to maintain local control under 1152. You don't need all these members from the community to sit on the board. And so there has been some conversation regarding, maybe creating an advisory component to the board while not hamstringing the actual decision-making of the board. That also comes in, there's a legal question in there. If you have private citizens sitting on a board that could possibly make policy that would spend money or appropriate funds, technically that's not legal because those people were appointed and not elected. And so there's a big question there. We really haven't heard much resolution on that. The other ones that we're really watching is 1332 and 1410. Those are the deferring your property taxes, through the pandemic here. Clearly the issue with those is if you don't collect revenue before you have to pay revenue, speaking to bonds, which come due middle of the year, and you deferred your revenue to the end of the year, what are you supposed to do about that? And so the state's going to have to be on the hook for that. If they're going to mandate the policy, they're going to have to fill that gap with something. They don't want to, and they don't really know how to, which is interesting because the other little interesting piece of information that we just received here yesterday, and kind of confirmed to some extent, we know that there are federal dollars coming down, and Speaker Jenkins has been taking a very hard line towards, at the end of session, we are done. 105 days, we're out, and that comes on April 25th. Now, the conversation these days is, well, we're going to get a couple $2 billion from the federal government. How do we spend that? We're not sure we can figure out how to spend that before we get out in April. So, oh man, we might have to have a special session. Completely contrary to what the speaker was trying to do. And I don't know one way or the other if she's part of that conversation or not. But it definitely could put an interesting spin on things if they have to come back for a special session to try and figure out how to spend money, which I find kind of ironic that the state needs to figure out how to spend money. What we're really concerned about with that particular conversation, while it is somewhat hypocritical and kind of funny, the big concern we have is a lot of these federal dollars, oftentimes, we don't know what the stimulus looks like yet in terms of what the state or the counties could get. The big concern with federal dollars is they obviously have a use it or lose it clause in them. That's one. So you got to do something with it. Nobody likes to lose money. But number two, you can end up in a position where, a lot of these federal dollars say that you have to create a new program. And that's the last thing we want to see, is a new program that we have to put money towards, and a one-time capital infusion from the Fed. And that really puts us in a bind because, maybe they fund it for a couple of years and, there's limited funding, finite funding with an infinite program. So basically, we're really hoping they don't go to a special session to try and figure this out. But that's really going to be most likely determined by what it really looks like when it comes down from the Fed and what those mandates around those dollars really are. And so we just kind of have to watch. We really don't know. The other questions that have come up, they're, talking about the gas tax and carbon and all that good stuff. We're expecting some sort of a package, a miracle package they're going to pull together, that includes the carbon, social justice, equity, also, the gas tax, things like that. We don't know what's going to be included in that. We don't even know if that's going to happen. Part of the benefit for us in that, I think we can all agree we don't want to go to the pump and see, $5 a gallon gas again. And then that's obviously being exacerbated by the Fed's decision here as they ban fracking and things like that, or oil production in the U.S. in general. So the good thing for us is the more things you try to put in that basket for, kind of an all-encompassing package, the harder it is to get everybody on board and the more that's going to fall off, the higher the risk that it's going to fail. With that, that we're also looking at, this is the first half of the biennium. There's a lot of conversation now going on. If we don't get what we want this session, there is always next session because, there's a lot to go through and hopefully we'll be in person and all that good jazz. We'll see how much of that happens. But I do think that as we come into concurrence, bills going back and forth, I think that it might be more than likely that a lot of these things, if they just can't agree, rather than making a big compromise on it, they may just let it die and come back the next year. Because the bills do come back in the form that they left their house of origin. So that would deal with the concurrence issue and they could redress it here next year, hopefully in person. So that's kind of the 10,000 foot overview here of what's going on the legislature side. The email that I sent out, of course, has a list of interesting bills and things like that. You will notice, of course, that it is pretty anemic as you get through the end of tomorrow. There were many of the committee hearings that said, bills to be introduced to the committee. Basically, we don't know what we're going to do yet. As soon as we get the votes, we'll let you know. So as these things come up, we'll, if anything of interest or anything you guys really need to be aware of, I'm sure WASAC will make you aware, and I'll kind of poke you too. The last thing I can say is, I know I've been pushing really hard on getting the community involved and getting your constituency engaged with the legislative process. I have actually heard from several legislators that they are seeing a greater involvement from the rural communities and the county commissioners and just everybody in the rural areas. So they wanted to tell me to tell you, thank you very much for the additional involvement and keep it up. And if there's one thing I can tell you, please, share everything that you possibly can with your constituents, friends, family, everybody, and encourage them to get on TVW, get on the website, because this is the first year in the history of the legislature that they can actually comment on a bill from home. So very important they do that, and your efforts are not going unnoticed. So thank you for that. And with that, do you guys have any questions, comments, complaints?
Oh, where would I begin? No.
So maybe I should have left the complaints off.
Yeah, leave the complaint part off. questions for Zach or comments? No? No, just keep it up. We're, we're just trying to keep our head above water for the rest of the session. And I agree with you. I think this is a kind of a unique year that I think you're going to see some non-compromise that they are just planning on. They'll just deal with it next year in the short session, which will be interesting with their, when they've only got 60 days, it makes it, some ways it's more efficient. Sometimes I think they should only just have 60 days, period.
Yeah.
This is always a scary time of year for me. I can't wait for it to be
Over.
I'm so happy for over session more than I am for going on vacation.
Yeah.
At least I know what's going on.
Yeah.
What's going to happen.
Yeah, at least you don't have to worry about coming back to a disaster, right?
Yeah. Better the disaster
Sorta.
than the one you feel.
Yep, exactly.
So, okay, well, just.
Yeah, the one you're thrust into.
Yes. So, all right, we'll leave it there.
Absolutely. Well, and as bills come up this week, I will, if and when things come up this week, into those committee hearings, anything of interest, we'll shoot out an email, let you guys know. And if there's anything you see that, you specifically want to comment on, please do let me know as well. And we'll sign in, specifically for your county as well. So just keep me posted. We'll be here.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. You guys have a great day.
You as well. All right. Now let's move on to, I see Public Works and Public Health was here prompt, a little early today. So
It's like 15 minutes early. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I'm not
I
out of
was
breath
here when
either.
we-
I don't
no, we said, no, you're here exactly when we were hoping. So we could start the conversation on the, reopening the building and buildings, I guess we should say, with the change. Go ahead and come on up.
See how many I have. Hopefully I have.
If you don't
enough.
have enough, I can wait.
Okay.
Yeah, me
I
too.
think you guys got this electronically too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got lots. Look at that.
I did love the in compliance with the state of Nevada.
Everything out, Jeff.
Thank you.
No, this is our later conversation.
Yes, maybe we
It's like,
might,
wow, we're getting really specific about this reopening.
we might
Yes,
actually.
must be 2 feet 9 inches.
I gave you. The opening first?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, so we talked about and handed out this Safe Start guidelines that we had last summer. We went back and updated as best Public Works can. There's probably some things about COVID that Aaron can probably help edit for us. But I think we cover most things with this document, the reopening plan. That's that first packet. And then we talked about and handed out a draft of this, which we kind of cleaned up the errors on for our door
Right.
entry points. And then we also talked about limiting capacity in the waiting areas. So we've made up these signs for the doors outside each office.
Do they not say Nevada on them though?
No, they
Right,
don't.
no.
This one does.
Draft,
No.
draft, yeah, draft.
Right.
Well, you said we made up these signs.
No,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Guess we've just adopted the Nevada
The
code by
Nevada.
reference.
The government is still.
Yeah, no, this is an old one.
and we try and use stuff that other people have taken the time to create.
Since reinventing the wheel.
Yeah,
I know, I looked at all your documents and I think they look great.
so, and Aaron probably has some ideas on, the checks, symptom checks and the screening. So this is almost like a self-check screening for visitors.
Right.
Because each office has already developed a plan and have been doing the checks since we were required to start that and keep working since last year. So this is just for the public, and these are the basic questions. It's similar when we went over next door to the building and the self-check-in we had to do there. And then we asked people not to come in if they answer yes to any of the questions that are on this list. And Aaron may have others, and we can add those if we need to. And then outside, or when you enter the building, we'll have small tables with additional masks. We'll have the sign that requires you to wear a mask inside. And then another table, or some of the offices already have a place designated where we'd have masks inside the waiting rooms themselves, additional ones if needed. And then I think the question is, what do you do? What are we gonna ask employees to do if somebody comes in without a mask?
A quick question going back to your little sheet here that says capacity at 4.
Yeah,
Are you going to check with each department head / official and downsize this number if they wish it to be downsized? So
yeah,
like if, let's say Brenda up there, if she can have 4, but she really only wants 2, I'd prefer to only do the 2.
yeah.
So I want them to have some input on that number.
Yeah, so we'll start out with what the building code says the capacity for that area based on what it's used for.
Right.
And that's kind of how we're starting. It's a good place to start.
Right. I just want to make sure they can have input to lower that number, the electeds, if they choose to.
Sure,
Right, that's kind of the max.
that's the max,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. So speaking of that, we will put a sign out here on this door,
What's that? What's our number?
which will be the capacity. I haven't calculated it. It was 12 at 25%.
Yeah, so
So it's probably maybe 20.
Yeah, we're gonna get.
Oh, as far as the building,
No, for this room.
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
room?
We're gonna be more restricted by 6 foot distance.
Yes.
Yes,
right,
exactly.
Yeah, because we can't meet 6 feet and get,
No, you're not gonna get the maximum capacity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll-
little tape marks on the floor.
Yeah.
probably lay out some chairs that meet that 6-foot requirement, and will be the capacity.
Yes. And then we'll put a sign that goes with that.
Okay.
Unless you want less.
no, I won't say that out loud.
Probably good.
So we've done all the other things. Everybody has the sneeze guards, and we have the hand sanitizer in the common areas of all of our facilities that we've already ordered and been using for a long time. We've upgraded where we can, all the filters on all of our HVAC equipment to a high efficiency filter. I think it's MER 13. And so we've done everything that we can to make the facility safe for the people that have been here working for months and the public who will come in.
Quick question for my staff person over here.
Yes, sir.
If we have people in here, and say we have 10 or 20 or whatever number we have in here, when they go to make citizen comment, and this is for Jake as well, do you think if they're sitting in their chair commenting, we're gonna be able to hear them on that mic?
Yes.
Okay.
It's that mic.
Yeah, it's that
And
much.
that's
Okay,
really
got
good mic.
So we don't have to have them come to the table or develop some other mic thing, they could just sit where they're at, talk and be fine. Got it, perfect, thank you.
So one other item that's on here, and I don't know how we're gonna tackle this one, but it's the Contact tracing, I think if we did a soft start, we talked about making appointments, that makes it easier. You know, do we have some kind of sign-in sheet, or each office have something, you know, people fill out their name and their phone number, is that enough? Yeah, so it's like a check-in.
Could we put that, I was gonna say, would that, for like us, would that be something outside that they sign in before they walk in the door? Or is that something we should? I'm just thinking if somebody walks in late, we're not gonna wanna walk over there and make them sign in, so. Are you gonna do these on the outside of the offices or on the inside of the offices, I guess is my question.
You know, probably in the offices where you have a waiting area, it probably makes sense to do it there, or when they actually come up to talk to somebody is
Right. Well,
another
because
option.
that was my question of waiting area. I guess I'm thinking ahead. That if they're waiting up in, say, Brenda's area, and decide not to go in and leave, if they didn't get inside the room, we don't have their info, where if we have the sign-in sheet in the hall,
Yeah,
at least we have the contact tracing that they were in the hall. So, sorry, go ahead.
no, yeah, and that, in this room, it probably makes sense to have it outside the door.
But as far as for the building, as far as in his scenario, like somebody could come in, they could be hanging out in the hall, they're going up, they see how many people are waiting to get into, say, the auditor's office, and they like, I'll come back later, and then they leave. We have no record of that person, and that's the question. Is that acceptable or not? Or should we make the sign in where we encourage people to sign in is just when we come into the building, and then they say going to the auditor.
Yeah.
It should, my recommendation would be that in the waiting areas or like in here, because now
Right.
we're in here more than 15 minutes. If I'm just walking through the hall.
That's true,
your
it's not.
exposure is less than 15 minutes,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
less than
Got
6 feet, so.
Yeah.
I don't care who's in the hallway, just like walking through.
Right.
I care about who's sitting here for
In-
more than 15 minutes.
Right, okay, that
So
makes sense to
If you walk
me.
into my office, we're gonna want you to sign in.
Right,
Maybe you're not there for 15 minutes, but that's gonna be your most exposure. There's other people in the waiting area.
right. No, I like that idea, because I think that's, I mean, and we do that now as far as just like, we have a public hearing, we automatically get people to sign in. When people make public comment, we ask them, tell me your name and where you live. And that's just, that's just part of the, we're not doing it for COVID tracing, obviously, because it's virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we will be, but it's like just, and so I think we just have a sign-up sheet or something there.
I have one more that I was asked this morning. Are we gonna clean our bathrooms in the courthouse more often than once a day now that we're allowing the public in? Or if we're wiping down desks, tables, everything else more often, we should probably clean our bathrooms more often than once a day. That was a request from somebody in the building.
Yeah, we do sanitizing more than, I mean, we
Yes.
do the cleaning, but we sanitize multiple times.
Yes.
So yeah, we do that.
Yeah, because we seem like, we already
We
have
have it already.
we have sort of enhanced
Mhm.
sanitation is going on now.
Yes.
Already, just for ourselves,
Mhm.
because we're mixing, okay. Okay, well, that sounds,
You got it handled.
and I would say, so what's our occupancy of the building going to be now? If we're at 50% for the building now, I mean,
Oh,
No,
Well, it didn't cover
Yeah.
staff, which is a weird thing.
25.
right,
I think so, something like that. Yeah, we'd have to look into.
Because that was
Yeah,
the
they-
weird part that I looked at the governor's mandate.
Yeah, it does not include-
50%, but that doesn't cover employees.
yeah,
You don't count employees. in that
Right, so well,
50%.
then that,
We have more than what,
Yeah.
we would normally
Yes.
have in
As I
the
said, it's a big
building.
number.
Yeah,
If you're not
it's
counting
big.
employees, it's gonna be a pretty big number.
Right.
yeah,
So that's what the point I guess I was trying to bring out is that, or earlier, when we were at 25% and we were gonna be maybe 12 bodies in the building, that's in that, according to the auditor, she can get 12 people waiting to go license.
Right.
And so that number, we maybe needed to kind of keep track of. But if it's double that now, I
Yeah.
don't see under normal circumstances that we would, it seems highly unlikely that we will exceed 25 people in the building or 24 people
right.
simultaneously on a regular basis. So to me, it's just like open the doors and it will kind of self, it'll
Yeah.
self-regulate itself as far as I guess if we get something, if we see that, and I think that should be part of our guidance to electeds and department heads. If you see something, it's no different than it always should be.
Right.
If there's a crowd of people, if there's 50 people crammed into the hallway, you probably
Yeah.
need to tell somebody, and we need to see about number one, what's going on.
Right.
And, because it's still the capacity, there's two limiting factors. It's that number and the distance from each other.
Right.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed. And so
Was your original numbers that you were thinking of, the 12 and the 25 in the building, was that based on occupancy counting employees or not
Yes.
counting employees?
Counting employees, so
So now that we're not counting employees, those
It
numbers
goes
should be.
we're over 100 people.
Yeah.
Right.
It goes way up.
So we have no.
yeah, so we have no issues.
No.
I just don't see that.
It's just gonna be in the seating or.
It's
the
gonna be in
entryways.
it's gonna be in
Yeah.
the social distancing piece of it.
Or-
Or whatever we're calling physical distancing.
Yes.
We're not supposed to call it that now for some, I guess that upsets people.
So, yeah, people watch.
Aaron's not
outside.
upset. Are you upset, Aaron? I'm sorry.
Not at
Okay, good. You seem kind of hard to get upset. So,
all.
yeah. Okay. So are we good then? I mean, the plan was that we would implement starting tomorrow. If we're ready, as far as our part of it, it's obviously going to be it's always going to be up to electeds as far as what they want to do in their offices. I don't know if I know the auditor is not here today and the admin is not available yesterday and today. And Brenda told me that last Friday.
Yeah.
So that, and I don't know if, that's the only part I can see is a bit of a glitch, because it is highly likely in my mind that the biggest user of services in this building is that office, the
Yes.
public. And so I don't want to tell people, oh yeah, we're open for business, come in, because I don't know that the auditor's office is going to be open tomorrow. And so I think we need to either verify that or just, we don't need to necessarily tell everybody we're doing everything
Right.
and let folks, until we know that.
I
for
would
sure.
think ideally we would have the departments listed on a sheet on the door with the phone number. Something by appointment only, call these numbers, so that not everybody's just coming in the building to try to get in a door. They call first from the outside, because that's where the phone number is, and see if they can get in the door or make their appointment. But I personally want to go on record absolutely right now, that my vote is to open the building tomorrow morning. Hopefully there's clarity with that, with my seatmates, to make sure we get this open tomorrow and not push back again until next week.
So what's your point of even saying that? Isn't that what I just said?
Well, kind of.
He said it on Facebook and he wanted to say it in
Oh,
person too.
okay. Okay, I just want to understand I think we're talking about opening the courthouse
Well,
tomorrow.
I thought we were.
That
gonna
doesn't
open
seem
on
very
Monday.
unclarified.
I thought we were gonna.
Didn't I
open on
say
Monday.
tomorrow?
I thought we were gonna open on Monday.
So tomorrow
We are, so
morning
I'm clarifying
at
tomorrow.
8:00, the doors will be unlocked.
Right, and then I would just make sure, it's up to each individual department as far as what they're comfortable with, and they may keep it, I don't know, they'll have to kind of figure that out. And we are talking about the annexes as well.
Yes. We'll take.
So the Pioneer Center in White Salmon will open,
Mhm.
barring any, some new piece of information, but I think that's what we should do. And then the, Annex 1, as far as building and plan, as you said, I think we're set. I mean, I think we're as ready as we're gonna be.
Yeah.
And, so just a logistical question, I guess, we should try to get this out as early as we can to the departments, because things like sign-up sheets, again, we have them because we do that, but I doubt very seriously if the planning department has a sign-up sheet that they've got printed, ready to go. I mean, literally at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, but they could make one, or we can
We'll
share some of
We'll-
ours.
we'll make one because we'll have to make one for ourselves
Yeah.
and then we
Okay.
can send it out.
Maybe send some out as far as
Yeah.
just a template for people, and they can modify it if they want to. And then, I'd offer too for department heads, if they have any questions and they want to talk to the chair, I'll give them what guidance I can, but it's really gonna be up to them.
Yeah.
And any kind of, either facilities questions, I'm gonna pass them on to you. A health question, I'll pass them on to the health director. I guess a legal question, I'll pass them on to the prosecutor, which there may be a couple. I did visit with the prosecutor at length yesterday, so I'm feeling as comfortable as any of us ever can be.
Right.
So it's all about managing risk.
Yeah.
So,
If Brenda's if she's available by phone, I'll call her.
yeah, I think that would be good just to give her a heads up so that she can, because my sense from her was that she wasn't necessarily opposed to starting, but she definitely didn't want us doing anything before the administrators were in. She didn't want us, let's open on Monday. There's nobody in the office to make the decision and, make the calls on things, which I totally get. That would not be good, so.
I'll try and touch base with her today. And I will with the rest of the electeds too, to talk about their occupancy that they're comfortable with, tell them what it's rated for, and then they can make a decision and we'll make them a sign.
Okay, perfect.
We'll do that.
Any other questions before we move on? Okay, thanks, Aaron, for coming over. You're welcome to stay.
I thank you. I have a long list of things to do, but I did send you just a couple of edits for this stuff that won't impact anything, just updated.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Aaron. And more kudos from the community this weekend, so it is. There's a lot of goodwill out there right now, so. I'll thank everybody, how things are working, so that's yeah, that has, believe me, all goodwill has a very short lifespan. That could be gone tomorrow. What have you done for me today? That was yesterday.
Right.
Unfortunately. Okay, on to normal public work stuff.
Okay. Let's see, we have a few items on the consent agenda. So one of the subcontractors on the building requested a bond for their retainage, which is not normal. We've never done this before, but it is in the RCWs that they can do it since their work is up front. They don't want to wait till the end of the project to close out to get their money. So the legislature changed that, which I think is a good thing. It's just new to us.
And I can tell you as a contractor, that bothered me too, for the very same reason, is that it's like, you basically front everything and then they get to hang on to.
Wait a year to get paid?
And wait a year to
Or
get
more,
paid,
yeah.
or more.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is new, but it's for the window and glass contractors. All right, we also have, we're closing out Trout Lake Highway. So we have the final acceptance and release of retainage bond for that project, which occurred last summer. Item number 20 is a final.
Case in
There
point.
you go.
Yeah.
Yep, last summer.
Item number 20 is a final acceptance and release of retainage for the Bickleton fuel tanks. And that repair last summer.
There we go again.
Item number 21 is our digital submittal for all of our crab reports so we can stay in good standings with crab. And
Excited to see that Crab's getting a new director.
yeah, Jane Wall.
Yeah, Jane,
Yeah, she does a good job with Wasaki. So
yeah, she.
yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then we have another pay estimate for justice systems. That's for the jail control systems. And they're back again. working on some of our door position indicators that aren't working like they should. And construction wise, I think we'll have our pre-con with the stripers. Usually they do it in April and they'll start in May, depending on the weather. So if it stays dry and not wet, they'll come early. So they like to get us done early so they can work on the other side of the mountains and when it's actually dry there later. Courtney Road, really nothing new on that one except for we have processed a deviation with WashDOT. So on the upper portion of that road, DOT standards are a little different than the standards that we have for grade. For that standard classification of road, we're supposed to have a 10% max slope. But when we get up to the top, it gets steep. And there are a lot of constraints. We have a Native American burial site. We have a well and houses that we're trying to avoid. And so there are limited ways we can kind of snake the road through while we're improving it. We still can't meet that 10% grade, which is a max for this class of road. So we'll have for about 2,400 feet, the upper portion of that will have 13.87% grade. Not to split hairs, but
Okay.
so it's a little steeper than the max under WashDOT, which ours is more like 12%.
It's 12%.
Yeah, so we're close to our standard, but not DOT standards, and the national standards are a little more restrictive for this class of road. So anyway, that's being processed through WashDOT, and we'll write it up as a waiver. So they use deviations. We call it a waiver, so we'll package it up as a waiver that'll come before you guys next week with the same justification for doing it.
How many other roads do we have in the county that are above that 10% that are these major county roads?
It depends on the class. So some of the roads would be more restrictive than the 10% and some would be less. So I would venture to guess on a lot of the roads that haven't been built, that there's quite a few at some point.
Goats and.
Yeah.
Much steeper.
Yeah.
Paved trails, like some of our roads.
Yeah, Goodno Station,
Yeah.
Stats Road.
Oh, God, yeah,
Yeah.
Stats Road.
Yeah. So we have a few.
It's a four-wheel drive road in the summer.
But is that steep though?
Part of it's that's pretty steep
Yeah.
on the bottom part there, seems like. It's been a long time since I've done it.
Yeah.
Last time I was up, it had water bars. It was in like October, and apparently that's how we left it for the winter. It was effective, but
Yeah,
A little rough.
it will
It was
continue
pretty
to
rough.
move.
Yes.
That's one thing about Stats.
Yeah.
Actively moves. So anyway, that you'll see for Courtney. Old Mountain, I need to move this up to construction, but the contractor let us know that they want to start the end of May, start work. So we'll have a pre-con at sometime between here and before they start work at the end of May.
Can you go back and talk about the 10 out of the 11? Are we any closer on that right away?
No, we've been trying to get a hold of them by phone, and our right-of-way agent has actually gone out there and we can't get them. So we are going to be talking to the VA.
He says he's willing to do it, he just can't make the schedule. He'll sign, but for some reason he just can't get.
Can't find a pen. I don't know.
Yeah, says
we'll bring our own pen.
We've tried.
we try. Well, I got other things going on today.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to kind of push him a little.
Or send Guido.
Yep. Let's stop ahead.
There you go. So anyway, it's still a holdup.
Got it. Thank you.
Let's see, our paving, we're on the last review of the plans. They'll go to WashDOT for our pavers. And then they have to approve those and give us permission to have construction funding to build it. And then we'll go out to ad. Safety projects should go out to ad, I think, next week. Maintenance, it's time to clean up after winter, so we're sweeping. West side will finish up this week, and then the brooms will go to the east side, and we'll clean up the roads over here. And then we're brushing, mowing, and grading, so it's that time of year to start cleaning up the sides of the road. That's pretty much it for work for the crews. The building, there's still, I think most of the frames now are installed. I think they received most of the glass Friday and yesterday, so they'll put those in, all but the operable windows where the plywood's going. And they have heat going in there. The insulation's going in on the first floor. They stock sheetrock, and so the sheetrockers will be hanging rock before too long as well on the first floor. And then everybody else will continue to work up all the trades.
How many people would you figure we actually have working over there on any given day over the last week or so?
I'm gonna guess it's 30 to 40. It's probably a good guess on outside and inside. There's a lot of people. Yeah. So things you can't see. So we have the masons on the front side, and then there's also, so the back side, the siding is metal. And so that's been kind of going at the same time as all the masonry work. And they started at the west end and they're working their way around. They're almost to the east end. So they're going pretty quick. So, and the roofers finished the majority of the roofing last week. So now they're finishing up the caps and checking all the seals and seams that they've welded together. So just kind of cleaning that up and connecting those drains properly will be the next step. So, because they can't keep poking out through the windows once the glass gets in there. So, so it's dried in, and they've got the heat going in there, so that'll dry everything out that wasn't dry. Let's see, we're probably about 8 million rough dollars in expenditures so far. So a little over halfway there for the building on expenditures. Some of those costs, though, are from the moves and temporary remodels and purchases of right-of-way for our parking lots. And then we're also putting together a contract to remove all the hazardous materials from the gray house behind us on the west side. And so we can actually remove it and at least now for a temporary parking, expand our parking. I think our challenge once we open, we've already talked to the contractor at the beginning of last week, and he's tried to get his contractors and subs to not park out front. And so that'll be a battle, I'm sure, because it looks really convenient to park there if you're working on the building next door. So that'll be maybe a challenge, because with 30 to 40 people, some of them ride together, but not all of them.
See, you knew where I was going with that question, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah.
I do have a question going back to, you said you're doing cleanup on the house back here in removal of hazardous. Are we talking asbestos-y type? What are we removing?
Yeah, so the siding is asbestos fiber siding, and then inside the house, the mud, which I've never ran into this before, the mud, sheetrock mud, has asbestos in it. And so that'll have to be removed. I've never ran into that before. Just
to kind of any idea on what it's going to cost us to have that asbestos part of it removed?
Not yet, but once we come up with an estimate, I'll let you know.
It's more for information for nuisance abatement in the future, not having anything to do with that, just a teaching tool or a lesson.
Yeah, so
Future issues we may run into.
Yeah, maybe we could talk about the last time we did an office here, what it cost us to remove.
Yeah, they're right around, well, let's see, the last one we did, I think, was the assessors, and I believe it was right around $7,000 to do it, and that's scraping it out. And then they have to put in, it's a little cheaper if they do outside, because then you don't have to have all this intricate ventilation
Yeah.
system, which we have to do, and we do it in here.
And here it's tougher.
Yes.
Yeah, but outside, there's no one in the building and, you know, things are really more.
So yeah, if you remember when that all gets done and you see a bill for it, let me know. Just,
Yeah.
like I said, it's just a
No, so as we
personal
get,
lesson knowledge thing.
yep,
Did we get when the asbestos folks were here and they were gonna go down to Klickitat to the old mill site and that building?
We gotta look at that too.
yeah, that'll be another area where if we want to remove that last building, which we do,
It's in the roofing.
yeah,
Oh, it is, okay, yeah, that's what I didn't know. I didn't
Yeah.
hear if there was stuff, so it is in the roofing.
Yep.
They just put that fiber in everything.
they
Yep.
did, yeah. It was filler, good filler.
Good filler.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in everything. The courthouse entry, I think we're in the contracts and bond stage. And then, once that's done, then we'll actually schedule the work.
Yeah.
When do you estimate that starting?
What's your guess?
Probably April-ish. That's when we're gonna try to push to start, is April, because we're gonna start on the east end first. It'll be easier to get it done before we go to 100% open,
Yeah,
because that'll have the biggest impact.
no, that's good.
Yeah, so the,
Between that and, I'm assuming the COVID tent will come down by then, but then their parking, we're gonna be pretty tight for a while.
yeah, so the other thing that will start in the spring, which is a part of the bigger project, is we rebuild the whole parking lot out here and we rebuild the street. So that parking that's on the one side will go away for a while. And so that's why it's important for us to get the other building down
So we can,
and so we can
Yes.
expand that west parking lot. So we actually have more, but it won't be long and they'll start work out here because it's, you know, we have about 6 months left of work and this is the road construction season now. So, yeah, it'll be challenging for a bit.
well, I think we need to reinforce with the general contractor to really encourage the employees, because they're there all day. I mean, they can park a distance away and then walk and they're there for the day versus people coming into the courthouse might be just here for a few minutes or 20 minutes or a half hour or something.
Right.
It's a little more of an issue for them. Because there's plenty of parking in town. It's
Yeah.
just right here.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Well, some of them parked across the street over essentially where the old gas station was, but usually just 2 or 3 of them, wide open parking lot, but I don't know that they have permission to park there either.
Right.
Private property that was.
Yeah, I think the electricians, because they're back and forth and their trucks get tools, so I think they,
Right, I mean, I'm a little more sympathetic to that, but the laborers where you're show up with your boots on, you're good to go.
Yeah, all day.
All day.
you can walk a block. or
Yeah.
You can walk a block.
I guess our other option is to direct all county employees to park over by Gordy's shop.
Gordy's shop
And
and
get them used to it because that's probably where they're gonna be. parking
that's right.
anyway.
It's part of our employee wellness program.
Definitely another
Yeah.
option.
Yeah,
Because I got the last spot in that lot this morning. I corked off Krista, she was not happy. So,
all the more reason to remove the gray building and
Yes.
expand.
yeah,
Okay.
which I think she came unparked in law enforcement, so it was good.
Yeah, I think we'll gain some. I think the sheriff has some vehicles that may be able to get moved up to the
Yeah,
fairgrounds.
that's true.
And so we'll gain some spots over there that
Mhm.
some of those vehicles haven't been moved in a while.
Okay.
So that'll help too. So the last thing on the building is the furniture stuff. And so I sent this to you guys as well as handout. So they came up with this wireframe, which is on the front, which I think, and they got rid of the little spindly chairs that were the waiting chairs. So they're not shown, but there is room for visitor chairs there on the other side of the desk. And then if you flip, you can kind of see a rendering of that space, and there are multiple different configurations of this L-shaped desk with an extension out the front. And this would be for the other offices, most all the office space, if people, there's bookshelves with cabinets, bookshelves with files, or just files. So you have the upper cabinets that close, and then the L-shaped desk to work at. And so this is kind of, I think, the general layout. Some of the offices they're big enough to have like a desk with a credenza behind you, if that's something that's more useful for people to have, but there are very few offices that are that size. So this is a kind of a generic plan that will fit in most offices. And then the last page is kind of the cubicle layouts.
Is the only difference between 4A and 4B those shelves on the right-hand side? I'm trying to look at the actual image.
Yeah, so one has drawers and one has
Yeah,
covered.
that's the only difference.
Yeah.
Right.
And then one's an open shelf. Yep. Yeah, so the plan view shows the two guest chairs in there. Just every time they tried to pick out a chair, we're like, it just didn't look right. So we've given them examples of guest chairs that we have, and hopefully they'll find something that's similar.
The bush, I'm right over there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so, and I don't know for you guys, if you're interested in something like this, I think for most of the offices, we're looking at more of a laminate top. The commissioner's chambers and offices will have more of the wood veneer. So they're a little bit of an upgrade from everybody else, which is how it should be, I think. So.
Wow,
And then
that's a
we're-
lot of horizontal spaces for me to stack things.
Right.
A lot of files, a lot of paper.
So then the next step is colors, and I think that's the next struggle, because I know it is with cubicles. I think there's only so many options of
Yeah.
color combinations, and I think we've narrowed it down to about 2 or 3, and then we just have to flip a coin and pick. But it's actually the example is kind of similar to what we're already looking at. So they've kind of, and you look at the carpet, and it's actually kind of close to what we have picked out for the building. And so they're looking at some shades of gray and a brown tone too, because they'll all match. So then I think that's the next step is, what does the furniture look like? I think the darker furniture seems to be, more traditional. So like this is the lightest, I think. This in here, this oak and kind of stained kind of a honey color seems to be the lightest we want to go. Other people prefer darker. So that's really up to you guys and your spaces, and then the rest of the offices as well. But that seems to be what people are saying.
Well, I would trust their opinion because I'm not no.
Okay.
Whatever you guys want to do.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Good with it.
A minute left, so I'll be quick. Yeah, fill the positions. So we had a foreman retire in Bickleton. We had a maintenance tech in White Salmon leave us for more money. And so we'd like to refill those 2 spots.
Quick question, left you for more money, did they go to another county or did they go to a private business?
PUD. Yeah.
Not local PUDs, no, Tri-Cities.
But that's just the nature of it.
Yeah.
We have good people, and
want good people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
Yep.
a good thing.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Bad for us.
So we'd like permission to refill both of those, and then we've kind of shuffled around a little bit inside, and so the mower position in Glenwood is the one that we have to fill again. So we'll put that out. And then we also, every year, we hire flaggers, temporary flaggers for the summer. We also hire interns to help us out with collecting our data for crab. And so their temporary positions, usually there's somebody locally that might be returning from college or just available and wants to work. So we have 2 of those interns and 4 flaggers to fill that are temporary. And
They're already budgeted.
they're already
Yes.
budgeted, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then the last follow-up, we finished our peer review for the Coombe short plat, and the peer review showed that the pond as configured doesn't meet the standard and will need to be modified somehow. So we sent the report to the applicant and their engineer yesterday, and so they're looking at it and reviewing it.
Okay,
That's it.
okay. Any questions? Yes.
I wanted to share the phone call that was received in our office. Gentleman lives near the Pioneer Center. And evidently he talked to senior services and he was advised to call the commissioners. He's had issues with the people stealing gas. And he asked for permission to park his pickup over by the Pioneer Center near the sheriff's office for protection. And I told him I would pass that on.
I know that there are a couple days during the week when seniors
Yeah,
are having meals, and if we open back up and do that, it's a challenge for parking.
Yes, very much a challenge.
I sympathize with him, but
Well, if you let him, there could be other requests.
yeah.
It's like,
right, that's what I said, I sympathize with him, but that's not what it was built for, in my opinion.
Is he, I wonder where he's living in, is he inside the city limits of White Salmon or?
is there like a Temple Shalom or something like that?
Yeah, oh, that's where he is?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, and I'm assuming,
I have his number. And his-
okay, yeah, maybe I'll give him a call back, or Jake can give him a call back as far as, and just, I think it'd be problematic just because we can't, otherwise it's just anybody. You know, although I would say, I don't think we don't police one way or the other. Like if somebody wanted to park their car there overnight and move it in the morning, I don't know. Our issues with capacity is during business hours.
Yes.
My issue is not whether it's done or not, is whether I get permission to do it.
Exactly.
So, and I'm not willing to give permission to do it, so, other than that, whatever happens, happens.
Okay. Anything else for these fine gentlemen before they leave?
Well, good update today, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your work on the reopening.
Yeah, it looks way better and thank you.
Okay.
Good day, gentlemen.
Yeah, you too.
You want something posted on the website that people are opening at after.
Good.
after.
We're gonna be quick, but at
If you
least
have
it-
questions
how
or
it could be
specific
worst case
departments,
scenario.
please call ahead.
I would make sure there's something on there that please call for
Outstanding.
appointment.
Good deal.
But we're not setting appointments. I mean, department's good, I guess, if they wanted to. I would maybe just have them contact the department to find out what their specific reopening
Yeah, something of that word is
capacity
fine.
or what they.
I just want them contacting ahead of showing up. Because I think they're gonna get pissed if they show up and get turned away because they don't have appointments and those. What, 95% of the people are gonna be showing up for anyway.
Yeah, and I believe there's department numbers on the door now. That's how that works now as far as like, because the doors are locked. If I come in, then it's got the department. I know it is over the annexes too, I believe. Hi, good morning, Jeff.
Morning.
Yeah, we don't want to piss.
Oh. Any goodies did you bring for us today, Jeff?
Oh, boy. I would love to
Looks like
say,
more than one sheet of paper.
I'd love to say I'm keeping it short, but, no. And I don't want to also say that it's probably why Lee, started scheduling me right before lunch. If I go long, we can.
They've got
I'm already starting late.
Yeah.
So I'll blame that on.
Noted.
I'll blame that on Public Works. But no, I will get through this as fast as possible, and you, of course, can cut me off at any time. But, yeah, I wanted to make sure that I'm thorough. So, as always, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice brisk day out there this morning. I believe it was 24 degrees at my house. Welcome to spring. So, as of 10:04, I can say that the radio system is performing and functioning normally at this time. We'll get to that other things in a minute. The annual Tier 3 radio system report is still being reviewed. I have not had time to fully review that. I just received it in January. When I usually receive that sometime in October. But I'm still going to have to dive into that and follow up on any repairs and maintenance that need to be made. I'm still working on the funding sustainability for the ongoing operations and maintenance of the radio system. Waiting for some answers from the treasurer's office about what's the different options would actually bring in for revenue and so on, as well as gathering different information from our counterparts in other counties and how they operate 911 and fund their radio systems through users' fees or taxes or so. So that is not off my radar, but it is a substantial and long-term project to make sure I give you the information that you need. As far as the radio project, still waiting on the security camera information at Stacker. It still hasn't been able to be brought online. The Klickitat fire station upgrade, the electrical service installation for our new room there was done this morning by PUD. I'm happy to report that they were able to get it done in 2 hours. They cut the grid power and we were able to run on battery backup for that time. That all worked well. I am continuing, as was mentioned, I believe last week before, talking about when we do transition the power, the generator, all those things that, and the radio equipment itself from where it currently is to the new room that we've constructed, developing contingency plans to make sure that we do not lose functionality of that site. As a public safety radio site, we can't have that go offline at any one time. So I'm working closely with Public Works as well as the contractors to make sure that that site is always up and running during any cutover processes. Is there any questions about that? Any of that? Okay. Unfortunately, Julie can't be with us today. She is off on medical leave. She had a little accident last week. So I will be giving the 911 dispatch report. You can see the call volumes there. They're remaining relatively steady. These are typically a low call volume in the winter months, but still a fair number of calls, which is up year over year. It's up historically, continues to increase. Under staffing, we have one casual position that's posted. We got your verbal authorization. It's on your consent agenda today. We have one full-time employee moving back to a casual position in May. And we have 2 employees currently in training and doing very well. One is nearing the end of her training cycle, so we're very encouraged by her progress and her performance so far. And one of them just started last week. Under training and operations, the chief operations presented the training at the state conference last week or the week before about operating with a positive attitude. We're hosting another training in May, the power of peer support, which deals with, mental well-being and so on in our 911 call taking and dispatching world. That's important to keep our people mentally healthy, physically as well. We've been prioritizing the department's policies and procedures project as an ongoing thing to finalize that in some form, although there's always changes that come up. We're always being mandated to do different things in different ways with different technology. Processes and procedures that are given to us by other agencies, both state and federal. And in April, we have the National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. It's on your consent agenda for the proclamation for that, the week of April 11th through the 17th. And we're making plans on how to celebrate that and recognize our communications officers during that week. Typically, I will host a barbecue and invite the first responders and all of that. It still remains to be seen if that's going to be a good idea, and if I do, if anyone didn't even show up. So last year we didn't do it. So we're working on it to make it as meaningful as we can with the parameters that we have. Any questions on 911 dispatch?
Nope.
Excellent. Well, this will go quick then.
Okay. We're gonna see no questions.
Excellent. Well, here's the meat of it. Emergency management program. Under COVID-19 updates, the EOC still remains activated at level 2, as it has been for over a year now. 1 year anniversary being March 2nd or 3rd. We continue to process those PPE requests from all local stakeholders, hospitals, CMS, so on, law enforcement. Still planning for being prepared for long-term PPE use. The counterfeit 3M N95 mask that I mentioned before, with a lot of, I don't know, I guess with help from the prosecutor's office, Rebecca was able to convince that company that they needed to honor the nature of that purchase in good faith, and they're going to take them back and provide us with a full refund, except for 1 box of 20, which we'd already opened.
Wow.
And used a couple.
I didn't expect that at all.
Neither did I, but the PA's office actually reported them to the AG's office, and rather than deal with the AG and get a black mark, they decided that they would give refunds to everybody, because like I said, we're by far not the only ones. I feel for them, and I don't know if they'll have any recourse for the manufacturer that sold them the counterfeit, but as of now, we're preparing to return those to them and get a full refund.
Question is, do they have the money to?
I know to refund it. Yeah.
Well, like I said, we turned it over to the prosecution.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Yeah, go.
Hustle, hustle.
Hustle, get
Yeah.
that check cashed.
Yep, the boxes are being repackaged right now, and I saw them this morning. We're getting ready to ship them out.
How many in total were there?
Ooh, I don't have that number off the top of my head. Is like masks, you mean? There was thousands of them. It was like $5,000 worth plus. I think it was, maybe even over 6. It was in that between $5,000 and $7,000 that we paid for that shipment.
So 1,000 masks or something?
Somewhere in that range, yeah. And there were different sizes as well. And then this morning, we had a little hiccup in starting the move of the PPE staging area from the fairgrounds exhibit hall. to the new staging area container. Given the 24-degree temperature this morning, Public Works woke up to a water leak, so they had to go deal with that before they could help us with all that heavy lifting. But they are going to work on that this afternoon and so on. So that is in process. And we're going to move everything we can to that container, and then the rest divvy out to all of the local stakeholders, emergency responders, and so on. So make sure that they have what they need for at least a 14-day supply of everything to start out with, if not more, because it's a lot more functional and easier to work out of the fairgrounds than it will be out of this container for us. So we want to give them as much as we can now as we move. So one, we don't have to move it, and two, we can get it out efficiently, and they have what they need.
Jeff, what's the life expectancy on a lot of that PPE? Is it 1 to 3 years, or what is it?
You know, it depends on the components, but like the mask and the elastic in the mask is some of the most short-lived, like N95 elastic or rubber band type material. It's got a 5-year shelf life, according to the information that I have, and that FEMA's stockpiles that they've had, the national stockpiles, that's what they try to do, is rotate on a 5-year basis.
Is there any plan for us in rotating out with, as we come out of this, so that we'll always have a stockpile working with the 2 hospitals, so that we can rotate it through for us while they're using it, so we always have a stockpile?
There, in the past, emergency management has never done that, provided that, and not only for infectious disease type incidents, but the other reason that we use N95 masks, or sometimes simple masks, is in fire season, and not only because of wildfires in our county, but across the state. And I think it was 2016 or 17 that we had the wildfire smoke come all the way down from Muskeg in Canada. We had a really bad year that year. Public health department has typically had those masks or gotten them from somewhere. Given these circumstances, however, I'm considering that, and whether that is an emergency management function or not.
Normally, I would assume that the hospitals buy their own equipment. And under this circumstance, we purchased it and is giving it to them. Did we purchase it with tax dollars or grant money, or how did we come upon this?
So all except for the $6,000 or so in the counterfeit masks that we purchased, I wanted to have our own supply that was outside of the state's tiered requirements for who we could give it to, under what circumstances. That's why I want our own. Everything above and beyond those few
Was just passed down from the state?
Yep, was given to us from the State Emergency Operations Center at no cost. So everything, in bulk that we have was no cost to the county.
Right.
And anything that we have purchased for the container, the racks, and any other miscellaneous supplies, as well as those masks that I talked about, the N95s that we purchased, have either all been reimbursed through CARES funding or FEMA grant funds already, or is approved to be. Yes. So the county hasn't expended any local dollars to date on those PPE supplies. But yes, you're correct. What we're talking about going forward, for the most part, would be what we would give out to the public, like masks for wildfire smoke, or air quality. We did the same.
As a county, I have no problem with that. Where I would have a problem is if the county is buying masks and then distributing to the hospitals going forward.
Yeah, and I also remember that during the train derailment in Mosier, the oil train fire, and that smoke that went over Pigeon White Salmon.
No issues with them going to the public at all.
Okay, yeah, during Springfest, that's another time that we would hand out those masks for air quality purposes. Did that answer your question, Commissioner Anderson?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, that move is going on, and I know that board wants to be prepared for anybody that wants to come in and use the fairgrounds facility, and that exhibit hall is one of the main indoor areas that they rent for parties and so on. So we're going to do our best to get that cleared out and available for rental as soon as possible. Working with Public Works. Recently, the request that we've been getting is, as you can see there, Fire District 3, Klickitat Valley Hospital for their drive-through vaccination clinics at the fairgrounds, and then the EMS district as well. And we expect more from other fire districts. Also, I just got one in from the sheriff's office for more PPE supplies that I approved this morning. Continue to plan for those future needs, whatever that might be. It's the responsibilities for DEM, any support from public health or other stakeholders. We're also working at scheduling another meeting with the agricultural producers in the county to see if they're going to need support from the EOC or public health regarding vaccinations or PPE. We still have some supplies that were given to us specifically for ag producers, hand sanitizers, masks, and certain things that came from the State Department of Agriculture. So as they ramp up for their new harvest seasons and so on this spring, I want to make sure that they have what they need and we can support them in any way. As of yesterday, there were 745 total COVID cases, which is only very positive in my opinion. 4 cases since I met with you last a month ago, February 22nd, that Monday before I met here. So 4 cases in a month is great. 2 active cases currently, and currently 9 deaths in the county due to COVID-19. As of Friday, there was over 10,000 total vaccination doses given across the county by all providers. And I'm still working on an EOC activity summary report. My finance section chief got that to me, I think a couple weeks ago now, and I've just not had time. But as soon as I can finalize that, get that draft in final form, ask that we hold a stakeholders meeting, a policy group meeting, I should say. The 3 of you, actually the chairman of the board here, and the 3 mayors, so I can give you that information and talk in more detail if need be, but provide you with that report. And I see my finance section chief joined us. Did you have something to add?
No, I was just going in to help with the financial discussion.
Okay. Thank you. And that covers my COVID-19 report for emergency management. Any questions?
Hard to believe it's been a year, but it's, in some ways it's been a year, and in some ways that it's only been a year.
Yeah. There's 2 edges to that story.
There is.
Sure. Yep. But there's a lot of positive things going on.
Yeah.
As you mentioned earlier, yeah, there's positive attitudes out there, and it's getting better for a lot of people. We're thankful for that. We also did receive from Williams, it's commonly referred to as Williams Pipeline, but it's officially Williams Corporation. This is related to the December natural gas service outage, contingent white salmon and the Hood River Odell area. They just spontaneously mailed us a check, which was referenced as being a grant for $5,000, representing Williams' contribution for Hood River white salmon assistance, quote unquote. And that happened in December, right before Christmas, that week of Christmas, the 20th through 25th. I think they had everybody that was actually home and available to get relit. You know, there's snowbirds and those type of absentee landowners, but everybody in Klickitat County that could be reestablished was by Christmas morning. The Hood River and Odell areas took several more days to finish that up, but they provided that money, and we're reaching out to them. We already talked to the auditor's office about the our ability to accept that, and we can. And then we need to make sure that we use it properly. I also have to talk to the mayors of those two cities still, as I represent them as well, and this happened in their jurisdictions, to see what we can do to be prepared for the next outage if there is one, and to purchase supplies.
Do you know if those mayors got a check? If those cities got a check too?
I have not talked to them. Yeah, this came specifically to emergency management to be prepared, to buy emergency preparedness supplies that
Right.
be relevant to the next outage. That's going to be space heaters, blankets.
Right.
We'll figure that out and do what we can to spend that most effectively. Let's see. Boy, third page. County burn ban, and I'm going to go into a little more detail. I apologize to Chairman Sauter, but since I have two new commissioners on the board, I thought it would be good to give you some additional information just on the burn ban. If you've heard it all before and you want me to stop, just say so. But our burn ban, there's a county burn ban.
Thank you.
This is the burn ban map. We created burn ban zones.
Why did the zones go backwards from the commissioner districts? I always wanted to know that.
So we don't confuse them because the lines are different, right?
Yes, so.
They went that way because zone 1 always goes first, East County. So zone 1 burn ban starts off the season, and then we move across the county. So I'm in preparations to coordinate with the fire chiefs of each fire district. One other thing to note as a legal matter, this only applies to the county fire districts, not the city departments. The city municipalities can set their own. In the county, and the state law says that to have burn bans, the county fire district has to have a burn permit process. So they have to issue a permit that is either good or not good all year long. Otherwise, they can't issue their own burn ban. The only fire district in the county that issues burn permits is Fire District 7. None of the other counties has volunteered from the top down mostly, except for District 3 on the west end out of Houston. They don't have paid chiefs or paid clerical staff and so on. So they don't really have the ability to have their own burn permit process effectively, thus not their own burn bans. So over the years, and as you can see, you see some of you reading forward in the burn ban county code and through ordinances and resolutions in the past. I think starting in '94, the board decided that there needed to be a process for creating a county burn ban and working with fire districts because they couldn't do so on their own legally. That evolved, but I think it was second or third year that I was here, a few years ago now. We decided to go with the zone structure because before it was a countywide burn ban and it typically went on July 1st. So that meant that the whole east end of the county was at high risk for at least a couple of months before the county burn ban went on. And people on the west end of the county were saying, I still got a mud puddle in my driveway. Why are you under a burn ban? Right. If you put it on earlier than July 1st. So I worked with CACIFA, the Fire Chiefs Association, to come up with a zone program. And then the county can release burn ban by zone and make it more applicable to the actual conditions on the ground, fire weather conditions. So that's a little bit of the history. Is there any questions? And that's the other thing I do. I work with all the fire chiefs to get by zone now, get their recommendations, get a consensus from all the fire chiefs in each zone. Say when they would recommend the county start the burn ban for that zone. I do that as best as I can through KC, so I don't have to deal with all 15 of them individually. And then I pass that on as a recommendation to the board, along with the resolution for start and an end date for that burn ban for those zones. So that's the process I'm going to be starting now, because District 3 historically, or excuse me, Zone 1 historically starts May 1st in a usual year, and that's some of the fire districts even advertise it, even though it wasn't legal. They have signage on their roads and they flip it down May 1st and say there's a burn ban in, even though it's not enforceable. But in the past, those burn bans, like I said, historically would be May 1st. For Zone 2 would be June 15th or July 1st, and for Zone 3, at least by July 1st. Last year, Zone 1 was May 1st, Zone 2 was May 15th, and Zone 3 was June 1st, because the National Interagency Fire Center Predictive Services said that the significant wildfire potential outlook was either higher than normal or so on. That's the data that I look at as well, and that I pass on to the fire chief so we can make that decision and a recommendation to you. And this year, the predictive service is saying for May and June that will be average. It will be a normal potential for significant wildfires in the months of May and June. So that's what I'm working from right now. These reports come out at the beginning of every month, so I'll look at that again 1st of April and 1st of May to make those decisions and give you those recommendations. Any questions on that process?
Nope.
So the next thing I'd like to talk about and get your go ahead or not is the county burn ban ordinance or code, and the need to update it. This is something I've been talking to the fire chiefs about for at least 3 years. The packet that I handed out to you, you can see that the current chapter 8.24 under purpose and definition. The definition of outdoor burning means combustion of any type in an open fire or outdoor container. That leaves a lot.
Like my barbecue.
Exactly. So I think if you'll turn to the resolution that is in the middle of the packet that I gave you, you can see in the last paragraph I've highlighted, the board has chosen before I started here, this is what was in the standard language of the resolution, that residential barbecues will be allowed. So under the county burn bans, that's all the public has to go on. It's open flame outside, and residential barbecues will be allowed. So both for the fire agencies, law enforcement, and the county sheriff's office, as well as emergency management, taking questions about that, and it's just not clear enough. How to clarify that in the county code is the challenge, and I do not want to overstep my bounds with fire chiefs because they are the fire authorities in each of the districts in the county. So I very much want their consensus and have solicited their input. What both Rural 7 and the city of Goldendale have done is create the last document that you see in your packet there, which talks about what is and what isn't allowed. What some of the verbiage that I'd like to consider would be, gas fuel devices with a shutoff valve, because there's lots of gas fire pits, gas barbecues, but we also have now the wood pellet and wood chip fired barbecues and smokers, all those kinds of things that are relatively newer appliances that people use for outdoor cooking. So crafting that kind of language, I would need to work with both your office, Lee, about the process for amending an ordinance, also with the prosecuting attorney to make sure that all that legal language was correct. But today, I'd just like to know if you have, if you want to tell me to stop, keep going, or any direction that you would like me to take on this. Whether I can have all this done and go through the public comment process in time for the first burn ban this year, I don't know, given we have time constraints. But if I don't keep moving forward on it, it's never going to happen. It's just going to cause more and more problems.
Right. I think you're cleaning up dirty code. So however long it takes you is better than not cleaning up dirty code. So.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay. We'll continue down this path, and yeah, let me know if you hear anything or have any recommendations. Keep working on that. Training and exercise is the same as it's always been. Still working under the ever-changing guidance to make sure we can provide what needs to be provided. You can see the list of emergency management program grants that are in my office now, and which ones are in which status. So listed there. Have several of them that we're working on projects. Let's see, I think I'm gonna bounce back. One thing after I finished my talking points here, I found an email which set the airport resilience project meeting with the Columbia Gorge Regional Airport. I mentioned that last time I was here. That was in the works. They delayed it. So it is now set for April 8th as a virtual meeting to discuss those issues with our county airport or a regional airport. So I plan to attend that. They specifically have time in there for local emergency management as well as public works and utilities and so on to talk about the resiliency of those facilities for a worst case scenario. Then last on the agenda, I wanted to end with the good news. I did find someone that was willing to take our position, part-time emergency management program coordinator. We have made a conditional offer of hire to Kevin DeWitt. He is starting on May 1st as of now, and he is a past environmental health and safety expert. That's his background, many years. So he now lives outside of Goldendale, and although he's taking a significant pay cut and no benefits, he wants to stay local, and he seems to be very motivated. So we're gonna see how that all works out. I'm excited to have him on board, and hopefully I'll bring him to the table and he can speak to emergency management program activities and take some of that workload in the future.
Well, not hopefully.
Yes. Well,
Well,
May 1st.
Not on May.
I'm optimistic, but I'm,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I don't want to get my hopes up too
Yeah,
high,
okay.
right? But yes, that's the plan.
Yeah. What did he last work for?
He worked actually for Central Washington University out of Lawrenceburg. Yeah, he was their emergency program coordinator over there, lastly, and he was commuting from here, and until that got to be too much, 4-hour commute. Yeah, and that's my report. Questions?
Any additional questions?
Nope, sorry, fixing my mess.
Director? No, look at that. You're done early.
Excellent.
Don't tell him that I didn't bring 4 pages next time.
No. My goal is to keep it on 1 sheet of paper, just 2 pages, yeah. All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Clean up my
Get
mess.
outside. Enjoy the beautiful sunshine.
Well, I do have a window in my office. Unfortunately, that'll be the best I get for the day, but yes, the sunshine is great. And I hear this weekend, it's supposed to be like high 50s to 60.
Wow.
Saturday and Sunday.
And no wind.
Yes,
Yeah.
No such thing, Red.
great day. So, yeah, to all the public then, if, you know, today, this weekend could be your weekend to do that last minute brush burning and have your barbecues and your fire pit and all that outside.
Yeah.
Enjoy while you still can. Fire weather season is coming.
Till July.
You got till July, yeah. Till the mud puddles dry up. Okay. We want to discuss or tackle before the break for the noon hour. Doesn't sound like it. Okay. Well, we will go ahead and adjourn. We will be back at 1 o'clock. Start the recording. I will call the meeting to order. Let the record show all three commissioners are present. We'll start first with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
20 participants on.
Okay. I would look for a motion on the agenda.
I was just getting ready to make a motion to approve the business agenda as presented.
Second. We have a motion and a second on the business agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed.
Are you okay with both minutes? Or
I have not looked at the 16th
Want
yet.
to just do the 9th now, or?
Yes, that would be fine.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the commissioner meeting minutes for March 9th, 2021 as presented.
I will second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the March 9th meeting minutes. Any discussion on those? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. That brings us to citizen comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the Board of Commissioners. Please limit your comments to 7 minutes or less per individual. If you wish to address the board, please either raise your hand in the Zoom format or unmute yourself. Please state your name for the record and where you live. Are we seeing anybody? No, not so far.
There's Russ.
Okay, go ahead, please, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Russ Hanson, number 10 Tucker Hill Road. I just want to take a moment to thank you guys for enacting the moratorium on solar ordinances for the Knight Road project. I think that was a big step. And I know last week you were talking about application fees and appeal fees, and you guys are working on that. So I'm hoping that we'll see some progress in that area. I just want to thank you for the work and keep it up.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Hanson. Okay. Others for citizen comment?
Good afternoon, Mr. Commissioners. Greg Wagner, 303 Fish Hatchery, Goldendale.
Commissioners, this is Dave Barta. Can you hear me?
We're sorry, everybody. Greg's back too.
All right, let's start with Greg was in line first, and then we'll take Mr. Barden. Go ahead, Greg, if you can hear us now. I didn't know we could do that.
I apologize.
What did you press? Like this big red button, I guess.
No Greg, Dave Martin's still there, Dave B.
Okay.
Yeah, but we heard Russ just fine.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say, we
we
heard a
heard
little
Russ
bit,
just
but then
fine.
we didn't hear any more, so. Technical difficulty.
Okay, Mr. Barden, do you want to give it a try? Oh,
Here's Greg.
Greg's back.
Hey, my
Phone
birds.
off. You're gonna use the computer, turn the phone off.
Greg, if you have phone audio and computer audio going at the same time, it's causing feedback.
Technology.
What did we have shifted on our end?
I had you muted. I had not unmuted you. I thought I had.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, so they couldn't hear us?
They couldn't hear you.
Oh,
All right.
but that doesn't, okay, well, ask Dave Barton now.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Everything's
Barden.
on. Everything's
Okay,
good.
Mr. Barden, I see that you are unmuted. Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, 428 Fish Hatchery Road. I also want to thank the commissioners for your work and considering a bit of a pause so that we can continue to focus on land use and ordinances in this area. After looking through some of the RCWs that guide the FSEC process, I know that's a fear sometimes, but they do try to pay pretty close attention to local ordinances. And so my hope is as we get through that hearing process, and I look forward to finding out when that is, as we get through that hearing process, we can get some guidelines for energy facility siting, particularly, of course, solar in the future. Again, just thank you for giving us time to consider this and really educate ourselves and think about the future of Klickitat County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barden.
Greg Wagner's back.
All right, Mr. Wagner, are you back? I know you couldn't hear us before.
Got it.
Hello,
There you
Greg
go.
Wagner, 303 Fish Hatchery, Goldendale.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm a member of CEAS. I want to thank you guys for enacting the solar moratorium. And I still have some questions and I have some comments. I know you won't be able to answer my questions now, but I'll email you them and hopefully you'll follow up. Is there a moratorium? Is there an actual written document? If it is, where can I view it? When will the first public meetings be held? How will you notify all 22,000 citizens about the meetings? Will you do a bulk mailing to all the citizens? Will the meetings be recorded? Will they be in person, Zoom, or both? Will the solar ordinance be decided by only the citizens and the county officials with no input from the solar companies? Will all solar company projects planned for Knight Road be put on hold until the ordinances are written and enforced? I have some questions for Mr. Anderson. You keep saying trust the process. I assume you mean the conditional use process. Where can I view the complete detailed CUP? Surely it isn't the 2-page CUP brochure of frequently asked questions posted on our county website. How can we trust a process we've never seen? A CUP has never been used for permitting a solar farm. Again, how can we trust that process? You told me that the CUP supersedes the EOZ, so the citizens lose the 500 to 1,500 foot setback, and the citizens must negotiate with the solar companies for those setbacks. That's a losing proposition for us citizens. When will we have solar ordinance that we cannot allow them to be ignored, and they must be followed completely? All the EIS must be done before a project can be built, not like Lund Hill, where many of the EISs were ignored and addressed by stating to be decided later, and that has never happened. If we have ordinance which are adhered to and the MDS are not used, there will be less or no appeals. To establish solar ordinances now will prevent future problems and truly protect the county and the citizens. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Wagner, I sent you an email there about lunchtime, giving you some direction on the CUP process. I don't know if you received that or not.
No, I haven't, but I'll look for it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I can give you just an update on the ordinance for the moratorium. The planning director has prepared it. It's being vetted in the PA's office right now. And when it's ready, it will come before you.
Thank you. Okay, we are still in citizen comment. Is there other citizens that wish to address the board? Could be on any topic. If so, please either raise your hand, unmute yourself, and identify yourself.
Elaine.
Elaine, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Elaine Harvey, 425 Hill Road. I just want to say a comment that I've noticed that Mark Job is going to be on one of the boards, the citizen review boards. And in the past, I've myself and others in CEAS just posted awareness on Facebook. So just, awareness posts of solar project in the county, potential impacts to residents and the county and the environment. And this person, Mark Job, he's like one of the main ones who was totally against us. And, he just said so many rude comments against us. And here we're bringing out facts to the public. So, I just think that needs to be brought out since he's going to be on one of the boards, the planning board, I believe. And you guys, during your guys' process of choosing individuals, you guys didn't want CEAS on some of the boards because we'd have to recuse ourselves. Well, I think, it should be neutral too. And Mark Job, he was totally against us, the CEAS group, and totally for solar for, I don't know what his reason was, but, we're just bringing out awareness because the project was kept in secrecy for 3 to 4 years. So I just wanted to bring that out. And that's all. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Harvey. Commissioner Christopher.
Yeah, I not that I want to address a lot of that, but I will say that Mark Joby was appointed to the planning board. It is the Board of Adjustments that will hear conditional use permits, not the planning board. So the Board of Adjustments is the one that will make decisions on this project in the CUP process, not Mark Job and the planning board, just for clarification.
I would also add, not to any specific member, but there is always an opportunity if you believe a commission member, whether it's on the planning commission, board of adjustment, or any board that is going to be having any kind of regulatory or permitting or anything on a specific project, if anybody feels that there is either a conflict of interest or that there have been ex parte contact that has had, those can be brought to that board. When that matter is in front of them, that issue can be raised with the chair of whatever that individual board is. And then that board can determine if that member can be asked as far as to recuse themselves. So again, that is not specific to your issue that you raised, but that's always available to folks if they feel like somebody is conflicted. Okay, we are still in citizen comment. So,
Rosil Dimick.
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Dimick.
Rosil Dimick, 55 Tucker Hill Road. Mr. Christopher, I was reviewing some documents. I sent you all three the link. It was from 2004. It was a recommendation of the Klickitat County Planning Commission, and didn't know if you had an opportunity to review that document. But in 2004, it looks like the Planning Commission actually made recommendations regarding the EOZ. So if, people are serving on the planning commission, it does seem that they do have, have a a recommendation for hearing these processes and adjusting our policies. And then also regarding that same document that I had sent out, it really states, or it seems to me that it really emphasizes that there's supposed to be two areas in the EOZ. One at 3.2, and it says that there should be an EOZ for wind, and then 3.3 it says that there should be a EOZ for, 3.1 says that there should be an EOZ for wind, and 3.2 says an energy overlay zone for solar. And so my question is if this was recommended by the planning commission back in 2004, why has that not been taken into consideration and completed? That's just my comment. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So this is Commissioner Christopher. I'll kind of go back and address part of that. Yes, the planning commission was tasked with helping set up the EOZ. The Knight Road project is not part of the EOZ. So planning commission should not have any part of that. If the EOZ is reopened or adjusted, yes, it will go back before the planning board. And I hope at that time, if that does happen, if you have concerns about any planning board member, that you bring those concerns to the chairman of that board at that time before a vote takes place about a possible refusal of a vote. So that should solve that problem. The other part of it we will address later, I believe.
Yes.
Rochelle, I remember this is Commissioner Anderson. I responded to your questions and then we sent those off to Mochi for the response on that. Have you got a response from BoCC about that email yet, or has that not been forwarded out?
It has been forwarded.
Oh, it has been forwarded.
Yes,
So you do have the response from the BoCC and Mochi with regards to those questions, correct?
I do. I may have just. I'll look through it again, but I did not see where it addressed the document that I was talking about, but I will look it over again. I know that you did respond, and you said that that the wind and solar were supposed to be adopted into the EOZ. However, this seems very confusing since there's two different sections in this document. And if they were supposed to be combined, why they weren't just part of one line. So I will look over that document from Mucci and see if
Rochelle, that was a multi-year process, the creation of the EOZ. It went through multiple iterations. It also went through a settlement process, correct? And so what started out in 2004 is never what comes out the end in 2007. Yes. Seven, I think it was. So that would be, you probably, there's, a whole lot of iterations between that first original and what came out the other end.
Okay. Well, it just seemed like it was voted on, but I didn't see any resolution or any amendment to it. So, but maybe Mucci sent me a link to where that happened.
What's voted on by the planning board does not make county law. It then gets recommended to the commissioners, and the commissioners can accept or deny. So there's that too. So there's a whole process after the planning board to get things going.
And you commissioners held hearings, correct, after the planning commission? So
Yeah,
you
there
held
would have
your own
been
hearings.
Yeah, there would have been. Okay, we are. Thank you.
I apologize. All right, thank you.
That's okay.
No problem.
Everybody's learning this process.
Yep.
So it's okay. One thing I am going to just take a second is because there's several folks on this call Zoom meeting, and there is, I think, some confusion about, you're sending emails and asking for responses to individual commissioners. And I have been very reticent about responding, and that's not because I don't necessarily want to respond, but it is, we have to be very careful that we're not just conducting a public meeting in pieces away from the public. And so when you are asking questions from all three commissioners and then sort of sharing back and forth the responses from the individual commissioners, it is in a sense, we could be communicating outside of a public meeting. And that's why generally if I see a response from a commissioner, I don't respond to it because that's the response. Outside, I'm happy to respond to in a public meeting, but I'm not going to respond to emails. If you send an email to me directly that's just to me, and I will respond to that, but not if it is basically part of a larger email that's to my two seatmates, because my interpretation of the Open Public Meeting Act is that would be a violation.
And if individuals CC people or
Right.
include them all, then
It's
you're
the
all
same.
still part of the chain.
Right.
So it has to be totally separate and apart.
Right.
And then you won't have that issue.
Right. So I know that seems counterintuitive, but it really is, as far as we have to be careful that we cannot communicate outside of a public meeting, because it may seem fair to you, but it's not fair to the general public, because there is a conversation going on that they're not party to then, and that's not okay. We are still in public comment right now, so if there is someone that wishes to address the board, this is your opportunity. So either unmute, say your name, speak up. Sherry, go ahead.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I would like to continue the conversation regarding conditional use permit process. I think, again, I'm going to say that people are unclear how that process really looks, how it starts when an applicant comes to Klickitat County and they approach the county with a project development idea. And at that point, I'm assuming that this applicant will, if they know that their project needs special considerations, at that time will apply for a conditional use permit. Because my understanding is a conditional use permit is simply conditions on something that isn't regulated, zoned, ordinance. It's a special, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a special consideration for guidelines that are set in place that this applicant project proposal development says, hey, we're going to step outside those lines a little bit. So we're going to need this conditional use permit to get this passed through. So at this point, when this applicant development comes to the county, I was thinking, how come the county can't then, put this proposal to whether it's a city council, a community council, or whatever neighborhood it's going to have direct impact on? Because again, we're asking for special privileges that's outside of the regulations, ordinance, code, zones, what have you. So, thinking this through, if that was a process the county had that was transparent and upfront to say, your neighborhood, there's a project development being proposed, it's going to have, this is what it's going to look like. What do you think as a community in your comprehensive plan? What have you? At that point, the county's going to be, transparent with its community, and the community's going to say, yeah, we like it, or no, that doesn't fit, and we are not going to have it because it's going to, disrupt our way of life, our safety, our welfare, our health, the environment. But the county will know then that they're going to have pushback from their taxpayers on this project that they're going to try to get through on a conditional use permit. And, if it wasn't a transparent process like that, we wouldn't go down the line where, the determination of non-significance goes through, and now we're on to comment period. Because when that happens, now we're just on the defense. The taxpaying citizens are on the defense to now fight against the county to say, whoa, 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 this is wrong, that's wrong, this will hurt, that's gonna, hurt this, our way of life, what have you. And then we're gonna pay money out of our pockets to appeal the county. And then the funny thing about it, I got to thinking, is now the county has to use its resources, its time frame, the people we pay to protect us, and they're going to use their resources to fight against their own tax-paying citizens who, if they would have just came to us in the first place under canvas, I'm going to say right there, you would have known we were pushing back. You knew we were going to push back with the preliminary determination. We pushed back then. And now we're all, whoever has cares that this will really, I mean, I'm not even go how devastating it is. And we all know it's just crazy to propose in this area where it's proposed. But now we're paying to fight against our own county. So I'm just hoping at some point the county can really look at who they're working for. Are they working to protect our health, our safety, our welfare, or are they working to do conditional use permits to allow big corporations to come in, do what they want, build what they want, and hurt our environment and hurt our way of life because you have a process. Commissioner Anderson, again, tells us to trust, but when you don't tell us about these until you have it to the next stage and you give us a comment period to fight the county, that's not a good process. Again, I would suggest that we can look at the process. If it's really a process you believe the county needs to have, then tell the citizens up front when you have a project requesting a conditional use permit. And then I think we'll all have a more transparent government. So please think about that. I don't know how to put this through, but again, it goes through the non-significant, and boom, we're on the defense, reaching into our pocket after paying our taxes for you to protect us. So thank you for that consideration.
Thank you. We are still in public comment. Are there any other members of the public for the next 4 minutes? I'm looking. Either unmute yourself, raise your hand if you haven't heard me say that 50 times. And I would say we are planning on we are going to be reopening the courthouse tomorrow, starting, and so there would be an opportunity if folks during public comment next Tuesday for in-person commenting. We will still, as the board has said, we are still going to be using the Zoom format. You will still have the opportunity to comment remotely as well. I suspect forever, I mean, that we're gonna, we'll keep this format.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We've had 2 people today talk about the conditional use permit process, and I know we've had multiple emails over the last 2 weeks about that. Mochi has sent out this 2-page, the frequently asked questions about the conditional use permit process. I wonder if the best thing we could ask for in the future from our planning department is to have a flow chart on how a conditional use permit process works. If that would help alleviate some of the concerns and questions that we are hearing. Is that something we may be able to do, Mochi?
Of course.
She's like,
In your
my
free
spare
time?
time. Yeah, I think we either need to have some kind of a public meeting where we can walk them through the process so they understand it, or a flow chart might also help without jumping through all those other hoops. But I think that would at least help
some sort of graphic representation, understanding that part of the training or education is about many parts of the process, maybe not all of them, are statutorily mandated. It isn't that these are necessarily the rules that we can even change many of them, but just so that folks understand how the process is laid out. Land use planning is a very statutorily regulated process in the state of Washington. And I'm sorry, we're using citizen comment time. Is there any citizens, but no one had raised their hand.
Greg is unmuted.
Greg, you are unmuted. Go ahead unless there's somebody else that has not already spoken. Okay, go ahead, Mr.
Hi, this is Greg, 303 Fish Hatchery, Goldendale. I just want to address this to Mr. Anderson. I'm looking at his email, and the conditional use process attachment that he put on his email is the 2-page frequently asked question brochure that I got from the county website. And I would hope that a conditional use process is more than, where do I get my permit? How much does it cost? When can I start building? There's got to be more to a conditional use process if we're going to permit a industrial scale solar farm based on 2 pages of frequently asked questions. There's got to be more to it than that. there's more to baking a cake than there is to that conditional use process. So I would like to see the detailed document, and apparently none exist. So I don't know how we can trust the CUP process if it doesn't exist. Thank you.
Mr. Wagner. Okay, I am going to close out citizen comment unless it's 1:30. So thank you all. As I had said, we will be open for in-person starting tomorrow. And so next week's meeting, folks will come in with appropriate safety measures, of course. Public health is listening. So that takes us to 1:30, a time we've set aside for public hearings, public meetings, and bid openings. Our order of business today is a public meeting to consider approval. I'm going to blame it on the mask. Boundary line adjustment BLA 2020-12 for 2 parcels in the Murdoch vicinity. The applicants are Bill Osborne, Cheryl Graham, and Mike Rockwell. And we will start with a brief staff review.
Okay,
Denise.
all right. Boundary line adjustment BLA 2020-12 is a proposal to adjust the common property line between parcels 02-13-1762-0010/00 and 02-13-1762-0011/00 in the Murdoch vicinity. The administrative review of this boundary line adjustment has been completed. Signatures have been obtained from the Road, Health, and Planning Departments and Treasurer's Office. The conditions attached to the preliminary approval have been met, all conditions. If the board finds that it's in the public interest to approve this boundary line adjustment, motion will be needed to grant final approval of BLA 2020-12 applicants Osborne, Graham, and Rockwell.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Denise? Here looks good. Looks like it. I was kind of curious on the map. It almost looked like it was an encroachment. Almost. The one house looked like it was pretty close to the. I mean, it was on their
And
lot.
that's what they're trying to do, is just get it away a little bit.
I was gonna say, it was right on the property line there.
I mean, I noticed there's a nothing really changed. They just moved the lines around.
Yeah,
so.
it was a side lot line, and normally those are smaller than the front and rear.
Right. But even, you got the 5-foot setback, but that's, if that's accurate, it was, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
would make a motion to approve boundary line adjustment BLA 2020-12.
Second motion.
We have a motion and a second on the boundary line adjustment. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed.
We don't need, for future reference, we don't need parcel number in that little spiel we just did. Or do we need parcel number in that little?
No, well, normally, I mean, you can it's just a BLA, the number in code, it's that boundary line adjustment.
Will
encodes all the
encompass those parcel numbers so we don't have to read that?
I didn't, just in setting it up. She did read it.
I read it, so I figured someone ought to read it.
Right.
If you read it, I don't think I need to.
No,
If
but I
read it-
didn't, so you would.
Okay.
So as long as
I
it's
figured
mentioned-
that.
Right,
I
no, you
think
did. I
that-
just want to know, if we needed to mention it in our motion to accept or not. For me, as a learning experience, that's why I asked.
You can if you want to. I always figure like a short plat, anything,
as
the
somebody
number,
said-
because that number has all that information is encoded into it as far as. Yes, ma'am.
For the record, that is included in the motion that goes in the minutes, because it includes all that information, which in this case, as Denise read, and or a lot of times
I
the chair
will,
reads,
yeah, okay.
and or the person doing the motion.
Sometimes just for efficiency. I always figure.
Guess I should have read the whole thing. It would have been way faster.
I was gonna say, you know, let me run that, bubble my way through it, but.
All right, got something for us to decide? Well, it's good to learn though,
Well, that's
if you don't know.
That's all I was doing there.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Ask questions. Always, I figure big stuff. I want to know who, when, where, and how much.
We usually come up with a question, I think.
I know, and I'm
try
being
to.
nice today.
There was a question. It was.
Yeah, there was a question. Yeah, I usually come up with a phone call. Well, I guess I did. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back to the question. I mean, this is over. I'm just questioning. Do we have rules that they can't build their house that close to a property line?
There's sides are 5 foot typically.
Well, it depends on the zoning designation, you know, some are 5, some are 20, some are 15.
Because yeah, I wouldn't be a happy
You know,
neighbor.
it depends on what the zoning is, what that building setbacks are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Front yard, backyard, side yard, yeah. I think there is a waiver process to get right to, you know, to 0 for some reason, you know.
Yeah, I would think if your neighbor's fine with it, but
It's usually more to fix things where oops, a mistake was made.
I think it's usually, if it's 5 foot on both sides, you have 10 feet from fire.
It's for fire code is what it's, I think that's what that minimum one comes from.
because that's the only thing I don't really see there is how much room is there? Yeah, they put the house all the way on one side, but how much room is between the house and the other side to get equipment to the back?
Yeah, and they're looking at that in the building permit process, making sure that they're meeting the side setback, the building setback.
Well, one of the things though is so this is on short plat, so we've got pretty good knowledge of where these are. Most places in the county or many places haven't been short platted. And so the boundaries are still a little wishy.
So there's a lot of boundary wishy-washy.
No, where we rely. Thanks, Denise.
Thank you, Denise.
Rely. Well, that's why when you submit for your building permit or anything, you sign the certification that to the best of your knowledge, the plot plan that you submitted with the numbers on it, that's what we go off of. And if you're knowingly, you know, that's on
Otherwise,
you.
it's simple between you.
There you go. Give it 4 years, you'll have me trained.
Okay, consent miscellaneous reports. Do you have anything? Do we have anything? I just hopped over it. Are you a miscellaneous report?
It might mislead you.
That has something
Something you don't like to hear from the commissioner.
Yeah.
But we have something on the consent agenda, the AV RFP. And I was talking to Lee, I'd like to extend it to 3 weeks instead of 2, so change the date that it's due. It's currently turned in on the 5th and appears in front of you on the 6th, and I'd like to make that April 12th.
Okay.
And then April 13th for commission meeting, gives another week to cook.
Can you talk a little bit about that AV and the changes that are made and what you guys were thinking? I looked up the different systems, and do we need 4 cameras in the room? Why was that like that?
Did we specify the number of cameras?
Well,
I think it was 2 cameras.
It said it was two
Four microphones.
X30s and 2 X50s in each of those.
Oh, the X30s and X50s are for other rooms. They're for the meeting rooms and
Oh,
for
okay.
for departments. So that the optional is that those will be installed in designated rooms.
Okay, that makes sense. I didn't know if that was what you were looking at for the main room.
No, we left the main room a little bit.
More broad. Okay.
Yes, sir. And that's optional, so that, you know, proposal won't be judged based on.
Heck, I was happy with the X50 just for our room.
So anyway, I just, didn't know-
Okay, so we can, if the board's okay with that, I guess we can just amend that in the consent, as long as we note it for the record on the paperwork itself. We'll just initial it or something, that we'll change it if we're fine with that. I don't, if that's your recommendation,
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
So you're saying that, I guess I can make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the amendment to number 11. So we're gonna accept all 21 items with the amendment on number 11.
Okay. You okay with that?
As long as you understand what the
The amendment was to add a week.
A week to the final, yeah.
I will second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to the amended consent agenda list, all 21 items. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Sorry for the.
Thank you.
Thank you. They are putting the smoosh tube in so that we can do whatever we want, pretty much. They're just putting extra in.
Or here, yes.
Yeah.
My understanding.
So we're not worried about timing or anything when they put that sheet rock up, we don't have to worry about them not being able to
You
go
go up to the edge, a lot of it's gonna fall ceiling, so they'll be able to run
So
cables.
somebody like really small, crawling there, which will not be me.
Yes, my understanding that that's
Yeah.
the case.
Okay, brings us to paying the bills.
Did we not have payroll for this week or?
We do, it did arrive. Or maybe you did. Yeah, it came right out.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to approve the accounts payable warrants in the amount of $168,883.16 and the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $0 for the date ending March 22nd, 2021.
Second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on paying the bills. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed.
Then
We do have a pay estimate.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve pay estimate number 4 to Justice Systems Corp. in the amount of $24,479.66, which includes sales tax of 7.5% of $1,835.97 and excludes retainage in the amount of $1,223.98 for a total payment in the amount of $25,091.65 for the Klickitat County Jail Control Systems Upgrade 2020 C28420.
I will happily second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this?
So they've been had to do a lot more work than they were planning. Is this still within their budget because it was a bid, or are they adding extra to it for all the doors and everything else? Do we know?
I don't know.
I'm not exactly sure on that, but yeah, it was kind of a 1950s wiring harness that they didn't realize they were getting into, kind of a thing. So it's been a little messy.
I think typically, I mean, the bid part of it's the bid, but if they probably have
You can
some,
always find a change work order.
Yeah.
right, somewhere, and that's where they'll get us on some of this stuff, probably.
I would imagine.
So I will say I love their company name, Justice Systems. Sorry, Madam
That was
Clerk,
my-
I'm getting the look from the clerk.
It's all good.
We have a motion and a second and way too much comment. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye, motion passed.
I did hear a rumor about a jail tour too, so
That's not
for us special people. So
I'd rather tour it from this side.
Yeah, you actually are required, we are supposed to visit the facility, I think, once a year. That's one of the,
I visited.
I generally, the rule is it's been a really good day. Yet when I do the tour, I don't know anybody personally. Which to date, actually, that's never not happened. So, or somebody knows me by name. Elected officials report, prosecuting attorney Cannell. Do you have any items to bring before the board, or do you need an executive session?
I just want to give you a heads up. We had a 2-hour pre-hearing conference this morning on the under canvas before the hearings examiner. We do have a hearing scheduled for June 17th and 18th. On the June 17th will be the SEPA review, the appeal on the MDNS that was filed, and day 2 will be the conditional use permit process with public comment allowed. And so that's we'll be on that Friday on the let's see if I got the date right here, the 17th, 18th. Yeah. So that's proceeding, and I'll give updates if anything significantly changes on that. And then otherwise, that's all I have to report right now.
Okay. Will that meeting will that be 100% virtual? Will it be a hybrid? Will there be some in person, or are you aware at this point?
Right now, the default is going to be via Zoom. I need to coordinate with your clerk on the availability of your account. It's quite possible that there might be some in person, but to be safe, the hearings examiner and the parties are moving forward with the assumption that it will be virtual. Written comments can be filed within a week in advance of the hearings, and then up to 3 minutes per citizen comment will be allowed. Solely as to the CUP, not the SEPA appeal.
So is the SEPA, all public comment is closed on that then? Is that what you're saying currently?
Correct.
Okay.
So it'll be on the record.
Yeah, it's on the record. So quite a bit of work to do on that. Mochi will be quite busy in the next month working on with Deputy Cranston on compiling the record, preparing the exhibit list, and then Ms. Limblad will take the lead on the staff report. So she's going to be very busy with that in the next month. So I just want to make sure the board's aware of that.
So I guess this goes back to the question of the appeal fees. And if it's going to take, I mean, how many hours do you see that taking just preparing? Lots?
We'll find out.
Yeah, but if we don't
There'll be a
ask her to-
substantial time investment.
Yeah, if we don't ask her to keep track of her time, then we don't have the information that we need to make an informed decision on what the appeal fees should be for the SEPA process. And I know you want to track your time so badly, but I see it as if you could keep a track of those hours that you spend on it, that would really help us
That would
out
be
in our
really
discussion.
helpful. Yeah. Because then we have a real world
Example.
ground
Right.
truth.
And my argument is not necessarily that the appealer shouldn't be paying all the fees. My argument would be it still is reimbursement of fees not used, charging multiple people for the same fee. So that's a future discussion, but.
Right. And I guess, I know it's difficult, but if you can separate out the time, because the appeal fee is on the SEPA. So it's only the time responding to preparing for the SEPA part.
Not
The conditional use permit, it would be good to keep track of that as well, because, well, that's the applicant's fees. You know what I mean? And if it takes all this time in order to get the CUP through, we need to know what that time takes too.
Let's say it could be a good educational for us to have them split, yeah.
Okay.
Which is just more work for her to.
I know.
Take notes.
I'm sorry.
Eventually, we gotta get her to go on a vacation, but that's a whole nother story.
Okay. Mr. Prosecutor, you were correct am I hearing correct? That was the only matter you had to discuss with the board?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. That moves us into.
So I know, David, we had a conversation about the dog ordinance information. We had just a conversation. How far out do you expect we are from getting the PA's opinion request back? I had the person that brought it up originally asked me again. And so I said I'd let him know what we expect.
Sure. Keep in mind that looks like the date was requested on March 3rd. I've been presented a draft opinion response from my deputy, and hopefully by the end of the week, I'll be able to review that and provide any edits and get that out.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other questions for the prosecutor? No. Okay, that moves us into board pending issues as determined by the Board of Commissioners. You had one this morning. What was that? I already forgot it.
I got one that I wrote down. I don't remember if it was the one from this morning.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
I guess one update is the Washington State is coming out with the Working Washington 4 grant program. I talked with Director McClure this morning about it and how we're going to market that. He's already sent out the information to the chambers, but in the past, I've always sent out the full list to the business group. Just wanted to run that by you guys, if that makes sense, to send it to all of our business contacts about Working Washington 4. I haven't done my research on it, but another issue that's come up with regards to that is with the Working Washington 3. We sent out, we created our prioritized list of the businesses that were most affected by it. And the state originally said that they would take our list and they would look really carefully at it. Well, there were thousands and thousands of applications, and the state used a third party to process all the applications for that. And I think they're gonna do the same this time. But that third party didn't do what the state said, and they were gonna look at it. So we had some of the people on our list got funded, and some of the like really businesses that got really hit hard that were priority top of our list didn't get anything.
Right.
And so the question is, with Working Washington 4, we may want to see how this plays out with those businesses, but with the dollars that we have coming in with, our federal dollars coming in, if we want to do like what we did the first time around and split out some of that money for those businesses that we feel didn't get funded, but were really deserving of it in those industries. Especially if they don't get funded in Working Washington 4. So that was just something I wanted to bring up for discussion amongst you guys, what your thoughts are.
Okay. Commissioner Christopher?
I'll hold my thoughts, cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay, I'd say, I mean, as far as for me, I think we need to have I would be supportive of taking a portion, some portion like we did with the CARES Act dollars, where we set some of it aside for grants to businesses. I would anticipate I would support that same approach with the newest federal dollars that we're going to get, that we probably, because there's going to be some businesses that fall through the cracks. I think there's, it may be more complicated this time because there's so much money flowing through so many different avenues that we want to make sure. But you would think, oh, well, there won't be anybody left for us to help but to me, that actually leaves, when you have multiple things, that's that many more cracks to fall between. And there could be folks that are very deserving, that are high priorities for us, that don't get any funding. And I think we're going to be the stopgap, because we will have the discretion to use that money. That is an allowed use. And I think we should have a discussion about, once we actually see it, when it arrives in the next, because we'll get half. That would be a discussion too, because we're going to get half now and half a year from now. And so that would be a discussion too, as far as obviously the most critical needs, I would think, in the business community are now. So we might want to front load that amount, and then we can talk about it as far as next year. And that could be, because there could still be some, I know there'll still be impacts going on a year from now in businesses, but that's a later discussion.
So I'm saying, until we have the policy discussion on what we're going to spend that money on,
right? I
don't want to approve or deny a piece of that conversation before we hear the whole conversation.
That's.
And you're right. As far as I understand it, the ones that are falling through the cracks have a different NACIS code. So you could be a bar and a restaurant, or you could be a restaurant/bar. They have different NACS codes, and the third party only pulled one of those.
I don't know anybody that could qualify for that.
A bar and a restaurant?
No, I know somebody that fell through the crack.
But then also we've had an actual bar that doesn't serve food in the county, who's definitely fallen through the cracks, who hasn't been allowed to be open until the 22nd. So over a year, he's been absolutely closed down. But then didn't qualify. It's like, that's pretty tough.
They said, I understand the plight.
Yep.
I just don't want to confirm or deny until we have that policy discussion as a policy discussion.
No, I can respect that. So, other pending issues?
Your turn, Paul, and then I'll think about mine.
I, for the first time, and since I started here, don't have anything for you for board pending.
Probably do, but I
big enough.
Yeah.
We're up to 2 or 3 pages now, so.
You wanted to talk about that. And you also got this letter. It wasn't emailed to everybody. If you want to do it.
You say we got some time, boy, it's 2 o'clock.
Well, I think we got some stuff to talk about as we go on. Actually, I'm gonna hold off on that. When this came out, until I have a chance to talk with the planning director. It's just, it's Gordon Commission, it's not, it's just the implementation. I want to make sure I understand. Because I don't want to ask now. As again, as we're hearing multiple times, the planning director has lots and lots of months on your plate, so.
We should set some time with our schedule to hear about adding staff to that department.
Well, I think that's,
That was
yeah,
joke.
real, oh,
That
okay, I
was
was
a
like,
joke.
really? Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's
we're
like,
gonna do
listen,
that. How about right now?
That was like, were you doing that on purpose, trying to just lead us out of board meeting and right into unfinished business?
All right, unfinished business. So we are gonna have, first, we're gonna hear from the planning director of a discussion regarding planning priorities and staffing needs of the planning department.
So I was told to come here to talk about that.
Right.
You spent a lot of time over here lately.
Yes. And
Maybe we should see, well, you know, in the new building, you're gonna be just down the hall, I think.
Different
it's
floor.
upstairs, yeah.
Are you on the second?
Third floor.
You're on the first or third floor?
Third floor.
Third floor. She's got all those conference rooms.
Oh, that's right.
Next to the break room.
You can use Gordy's pole.
Gordy's, yeah,
Oh,
you can use
pole.
Gordy's pole to right down into the commissioner's chambers, so it's.
Yeah, so my understanding was the board had a discussion about potentially adding staff to help with the planning department's workload. And I appreciate that, thank you. So before I can really tell you what kind of help that I need, I would get some input from the commissioners. If you can let me know what you envision, I guess I need some help in setting priorities. So right now on my list, I have 10 items in addition to daily, development review, short plat, boundary line adjustment, that kind of thing, like, supervise my staff to keep those moving. So as earlier, we mentioned that I'm going to be working on the under canvas appeal with the public hearing coming up in June, but there's deadlines for submitting reports, records, and that kind of thing. We have solar projects and policies, directions that we need some input. We are working on the fee schedules that we'll bring it back to the board for discussion. And then the next two items are actually state mandates. Those are items that we are already late in complying with the deadline, which is the critical areas update and the shoreline plan update. We talk about we really need to update our comprehensive plan and sub-area plans because those are the basis for all regulations. We talk about zoning ordinance update, which could include, like short-term rentals, hardship homes, or planned district that we can have a little flexibility for mixed use. Our environmental policy act, the SEPA ordinance is not updated. There's some questions and that we heard during the last few months about how it's not very clear and how a lot of people disagree with the current setup about the comment and appeal period, that how they end on the same day and really didn't provide enough time for people to comment on it. And now, of course, we have the mobile home park and RV park ordinance that was adopted and updated in the 90s. They are not the most current standards. And with newer development, tiny home and all that, potentially we could develop like an alternative mobile home park, like Getaway in Glenwood, that we could invest some time in updating those and make it more user friendly. And the last but not least, we potentially may have more hearing or appeal hearing before a hearing examiner. We might want to look into adopting some kind of rules of procedure. So we have there's something in writing that we can follow through. So this is 10 items that I can think of that all need attention. Some is more urgent because we have a deadline that we have to comply with, and others that is going to take some time to get to even a recommendation through the planning commission. So if you, because I can do anything you want me to do, with this. But of course, it will not be a wise decision to start all 10 things all at once. So if you can tell me maybe the top 3 or top 5 that you want me to work on, then I can look into how can we accomplish that, and then I can in turn let you know if we need to have like a full-time county person, or maybe a contractor, or a project manager to assist me in getting those items done.
I just put some rounded dates here, just off the back of the napkin. So solar project policy is a 1-year process potentially. You go, slow on the slow end. Working on the fee schedule, 6 months. Shorelines management, since we're halfway through, 1 year. Critical areas, 2 years. Update the comprehensive plan and sub-area plans, probably 5-year process. Zoning ordinance update, mixed use, 9-month process. SEPA ordinance, probably 1 year. Mobile home RVs, 9 months. Appeal hearing your examiner, just creating those internal policies, 3 months. So you do that math, and that's a whole lot of time.
That goes out past Mochi's retirement date. Which if you give her all 10 of those things now could be this afternoon.
So I guess in setting the priorities, the priorities already set. The under canvas is happening. That's that's a time, probably a huge time suck, right? For the next month, where we've already given her 5 other things to do today, probably. Including the fee schedule. The Shorelines Management Act has been sitting there for 3 years now? 2 years sitting there. Have you even started on the critical areas ordinance?
Yes, so we did start the critical area ordinance. We do have a draft, but there was some discussions during the SEPA process, so I have to withdraw the SEPA.
Oh, okay.
So just for the CAO, we do have a consultant on retainer that can help us with that. So for the CAO, it's actually like a contract for both the CAO and the SMP.
The shoreline SMP.
Because the shoreline plan, we still have a SEPA appeal that needs attention to. And potentially, I'm hoping the SMP might get some grant funding opportunity from ecology, and we won't find out until maybe May or June this year. So I had a conversation with our consultant. The recommendation I got from him was maybe we can amend our agreement, our contract agreement, so he can shift his focus to get the CAO moving forward while we wait for the SMP, because the SMP itself would include CAO element. And so if we can get the CAO done, hopefully, then we can incorporate those by reference. It will save us some time while we resolve the SEPA issue.
Do you anticipate an appeal on the SEPA for the CAO though?
I don't know.
So if there's a good likelihood, can we get a twofer with our hearings examiner on 2 appeals at the same time on the SEPA?
I think the
Volume
issues will
discount.
be different. Yeah, I think the issues will be different, and I would recommend not to try to
Tie the 2 together.
That's me. I'm not answering this question that she wants answered because I feel that she knows better the answer than I do. So I personally, I trust wherever she wants to go with what's first and what's last on her agenda.
And then just my personal comment on this is I do appreciate, you know this, that I need some extra help. But I also want to spend my time wisely. So there's a long range goal is if we want to think about in the long run and for a succession plan for someone that we can actually train in-house to someday be the director. And then we also have a short-term goal because we have all these items that we need to get done. And I hesitant to spend my time to try to train somebody new to do this because it does take time if you want this person, know how to do things and learn everything that is applicable to the planning department or to the county situation. So some work we can certainly hire a county staff to do. But right now with my current staffing, I don't think I have anyone that can, they already have the really heavy workload and I don't think I can pull any one of them to help me with these items.
Okay.
I guess from my perspective, I agree with Mochi that we're not trying to hire somebody if we were trying to fill this in at a base level. We're trying to bring somebody who's a professional planner that can act as an assistant.
Right.
Because all of this is more than one person's full-time job, yet she still has training and all the regular stuff that she does on top of anything else that comes in. But to me, this is more than a full-time position. That would be somebody with planning experience, hopefully elsewhere.
Right.
And I don't like spending all that when we know there's that much workload. I don't like just hiring it out to somebody who isn't going to be there because we also have to worry about succession and all that stuff.
Right.
I think I'm gonna defer really heavily to you as far as the planning director. I do think I'm trying to find it's like, I think the SMP, the critical areas ordinance, we already have a contractor that we've been working with, and those are kind of ongoing. Those are critical, even the critical areas ordinance, they are on time, we will be the last shoreline plan to be updated in the state. I don't say that, well, actually I'm gonna strike that, never mind. Because, yeah, never mind. So that's definitely something that we could, activate, reactivate, get that contractor spun back up. Because that person knows what they're doing on that, and we've got and I know we have to get that. I do think we do need to start talking about, as you said, succession, not necessarily use success, because I don't see things in the planning world in this county getting simpler ever. This is not an unusual time. I think this is the normal time. I think we have growth pressure in this county, I think, like we've never seen before. And I think that's going to continue. And I think if we are successful, some of this growing pains are things that we've asked for, that we have kind of hoped for as far as and I think we need to recognize that that's gonna keep going. And so I do like the idea of us making some investments in a person that's going to be here long term, so that we get to, just like, we have made, I think they've been really wise investments, but we've made investments in you and your staff, and you're an asset to this county right now. And, over the last, 10, 12, seems like longer time. And I think we need to do that with some other high-level staff. It's the question I'd have, I guess, for human resources is like, how, that's not going to be a short-term process. That's going to be, I think we need to kind of think about that as far as what that looks like. And then what kind of, because this is not, planning high level, trained, because there is, no matter, if we go and find the absolute most gifted, hardworking person planning that's got all this experience, and we bring them here and we plug them in, you're still gonna have to do some training with them, because I think every county has some unique kind of ways that we do things, and we have to learn the Klickitat County way, just as we all do. And so I want to be sensitive to that as far as to you, because you're correct. You don't want to have to take on training somebody right now, but I think that is once we get some of this other stuff hopefully shifted to where you can at least breathe using the contractors, that is something that I think we need to get started on, because it's you need the help, and I would rather invest in a human that's going to stick around.
Or at least potentially stick around.
Yeah, I know, you can't make them,
Yeah,
I tried those letters of indenture, it
I don't
doesn't
want
work.
to spend humongous dollars to a company that's gonna take the dollars when they're done, they're
I'm getting
gone.
a
and
text
we're-
right now from the
We're left with
prosecutor.
nobody. so.
Oh, you feel the disturbance?
Yeah, I do. It's just like yellow alert. Careful. Yes, Mr. Dave.
Motion, I've talked a few times about some different options that I think she will bring to you, or an option she'll bring to you. Salary wise, we're one of the highest senior planners pay in the gorge. Which surprised me a little bit, but
Yeah.
we're
How come nobody wants to work for us
We're at
then?
the top end, and I think.
What are you doing over there?
And I think that.
I have high standards.
You're real conservative on the year unless things have changed, because the planning in the gorge is different than anywhere else.
Yeah.
So where it might take a year to onboard a senior planner, in the gorge may take longer because of the uniqueness of the gorge. So it is a lot of work on BoCC's part.
Isn't that why we don't do any planning within the gorge?
The gorge, so we don't, yeah, that would add a whole,
I meant the geographical.
Yes. Unfortunately, the things that happen outside our borders impact us from a planning perspective. As far as priorities, as far as for of those, I think you're 10, I could probably think of a couple more, but that wouldn't be any higher priority than those.
What were you gonna add to it?
No, well,
It's not on the list.
just some scenic area stuff that's just more, not us, but
Sorry,
having more
Rob.
engagement. I don't
I
want.
can see you got my head snapped over there real fast.
No, as far
Sorry
as,
about that.
no, about just engagement, and so that we,
Oversight?
well, just so, because we still have the citizens that are doing land use planning in the scenic area are still our citizens, and we have in the past have tried to help shepherd, mentor, act on their behalf, and Mochi has been wonderful at that. But again, it's more, I don't know where you'd ever get a person. I just want, I guess, out on the list of these skills that this person is going to have, that they could also know a little something about that to help, shepherd some of those through as far as from the citizens' perspective, because that has been really helpful to folks. But that's basically Mochi right now, and you just can't do that along with everything else.
I couldn't do it on everyone, but if that's something that is brought to my attention, then I can at least.
Yeah. You need to learn how to say no. Say,
Well,
Mr. Sauter, that's
Yeah, I was
no.
gonna
I
say, her
can't,
list
because
changed
every
again.
one of them, right.
And part of that is all of our faults is now that we're trying to get some of these things moving. And it ends up putting way too much on one plate, so.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's not gonna get easier. And if
No.
anything, we're gonna have more applications and it's gonna get more difficult.
And I don't want to burn her out until she's ready to retire, so.
Yeah, so I would say the comprehensive plan, like the total overhaul of that, I think is absolutely necessary. We have to do it. I think we have to do it I think we need to have our eyes open about what that process is going to be and how we're going to do it. Because I really do think we need to do it with engagement with the communities, with the, really, and it's different. You cannot just do a general update and, have a hearing in White Salmon and a hearing in Goldendale and, oh, we're done. It doesn't work that way. I mean, I like that idea of how we had done the sub areas before, where we center those around the communities. I like it, except to do it right, that's going to be really resource intensive, because you have to have really strong, the only way I'm going to support that is with strong facilitation, where it's the county that is leading the effort in the community as far as with that engagement. But it is, I've always been, and it's got me in trouble, I do believe in local land use planning, even though it's messy and ugly and, but that's, I don't like I hate it when Olympia tells us what to do, and I'm not gonna do the same thing as far as, I think communities should plan for themselves with guidance or direction from the county, because we're the ones that have to make sure it follows the law and that it's, that you can administer it and that we can actually implement what you want, or it's not in conflict with some of our other county-wide goals that we have, because we've seen that before. Communities where we spent, I don't know, $20 million for a wastewater plant that they don't want any growth.
So the path forward, would it be to direct HR to come up with a position that would match what we're looking for? Would it be directing HR and Mochi to work together to figure out how we're gonna get there?
Yeah, and a time and a realistic as far as, again, I think that in the short term, in the next 6 months or so, I think you have plenty to do. Again, who can we get, again, the consultants on board, get them spun back up? Not that they haven't been, but we've been kind of idling while we, COVID kind of did that to some stuff.
But spinning the consultants up
I
takes
know.
more of her time right there.
I know,
And you're
I
still
know.
shepherding.
Well, that's me with pushing forward the comprehensive plan. It doesn't mean she has to start working on that tomorrow.
No.
Just know that I'm not gonna sit here and still have that on our list in 10 more years.
No, but I think that to me is one of those things that we need to.
But we need to know we're gonna do that here soon enough and be prepared, and that's what this is doing, is hopefully giving us the staff that once they get a couple of these near things off, can start pushing on that.
I guess the question is how are you doing at training and managing your staff? Are you able to do any training for your staff to help them grow currently, or are you just dealing with all these 50,000 foot big projects? And we need to get some of your staff sent to some training now that the world's opening back up. How do you feel about that?
I'm always available to my staff, and I think the best way to learn is by doing it. And we do have weekly staff meeting that staff can bring whatever issues that they have or encounter interesting cases, whatever that might be, for group discussion. And I have positive feedback from my staff. And I think we are doing okay with that front. I do allow them to go on to training, whether that's in person or through the webinar, to learn basic about planning, like SEPA, how it's work in critical areas and whatnot. And they can always present, what kind of training that they're interested in, bring it back for my approval and things like that. So I think for the most part, it's working okay. It's just that I'm trying to make sure that we cross-train each other, because we have a small office and each individual planner have their own type of workload, subdivision or conditional use permit. And they really don't have much opportunity to touch on the other things. And so if the particular person is on vacation, then y'all come back to me, because I have nobody else really know how to handle those. And that's not good. So that's why we have those, weekly training, and occasionally we might have a planner try to assist in working on a shoreline project, even though that may not be the primary caseload. And that's the best that I can do at this moment. So, if you have any input, I'm all ears.
Is there, not with the staff training, which I completely want to support Commissioner Anderson there, as far as anything that you need, then get it, avail yourself of it. I'm wondering too, as we obviously are hearing through, public comment from folks, where there is great interest in our planning processes, and I think rightly so. And I think folks, that's not something, unless you've been through it, where you don't understand how the processes work. It is very difficult if you don't, you don't live in that world to understand how all those processes work. Is the state still doing the, like the short course that's available to the public? Because that, I've been through it a couple times back when I was a planning commission member, and then after I was a commissioner, it was really gave me a really good foundation in just basic planning processes in the state of Washington. As 4 or 5 hour course that they brought somebody in. And is the state still doing things like that, or could we ask that?
Commerce is still doing the short course for local planning. They actually have those remotely now.
Oh.
There are some courses that's available, on Commerce websites. They have videos that people can watch at any time.
Oh, okay.
But of course, we can sponsor one, because we had one, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago. And so if we are interested, then, and also we have, newer planning commissioners and board of adjustment members.
Commissioner.
So I might be able to coordinate with Commerce and have one that actually, specific to Klickitat County, and have it available to anyone who's interested.
Okay. Thoughts? Do you think that?
I know, I went through it where it was just, a video that you watched. It wasn't really interactive. I mean, if Mochi can find the link to that or the login and password for that, we can send it to Dan and our new
Planning commission
members. Send it off to CEAS since they're asking about it. It would definitely help people. Just add it to our list, right?
That one is very easy.
And I would see, once things open up more, maybe we could, maybe next year we could talk about it in person training, because it is, I'm sure would be really useful, but it's nice when you can have the, interaction, especially the last one I went to, the person was really knowledgeable on Klickitat County specific stuff, and we were able to ask questions, and there was a couple planning commission.
Well, I think we learn better that way than virtually anyway. But.
I mean, virtual is better than nothing. But again, put that on the later list.
Okay.
So I guess I'm looking at what she asked for direction, what she needs to work on. And there's the under canvas appeal in June that is required. Next up is that we have 60 days to hold a hearing on the solar.
Yes, I was getting to that.
And so
I say that wasn't on our list, but yeah.
I mean, that's solar projects policies.
And whatever comes out of that.
And so, as I understand it, we have 60 days to hold the hearing to prove that the moratorium is valid, that there is the emergency or the purpose for it.
Right.
According to the RCWs. And then if we move from there, then we either have to implement the moratorium. And if we continue the moratorium, I would assume that we have to be working towards it with a time frame on implementing an ordinance. Otherwise, you just set a moratorium.
Right.
So that's really high up there. If we're also working on this STR stuff through the building department, and we can get the ordinance sitting there, well, then it would be nice to follow up with the zoning side of it so that people can use it. Otherwise, we're sitting in this limbo, which we've always been in the limbo, but only going to be worse for limbo. So that would be my third. Shorelines and critical areas updates. We're on a time frame, but nobody's kicked us yet too hard under the table.
Would that be?
We got the COVID timeout too.
How much of that would be part of the whole code? Would it make sense to do it all at the same time or no?
No, those are two different requirements. Regardless,
different babies. They
do have they'll feed into the overall update.
in terms of, you know, the appeal for hearing examiner, setting local procedures, I see that as really important. If we're gonna have to go through it with the solar side as well too, it would be nice to have that. And I see the start on that is just to come up with that flow chart of how it works. That shouldn't take too long. And so that would, I would say we're getting started on it, and that's probably gonna take a hiatus. And then that comprehensive plan, I don't see any way that with her regular workload, she could ever touch that to begin with.
Right, I would agree.
And so I would say that can't happen until we have a you know, assistant director or some sort of
agree with that one.
high level that can start taking some of these things off of her plate. Whether she starts working on the comprehensive plan and they are managing the day-to-day, or if it's that person's doing the special project and she's managing the day-to-day. But that's the only way I see that getting done.
I would agree.
So you were looking for direction.
We can make her work more hours every week.
What about the fee schedules? Where do you see that, Commissioner Anderson? The fee schedule update?
Well, I didn't want to say that because then I'm starting to mess up my logical flow because that fits, you know, somewhere in there. We have the fee schedule.
So I just hope the fee schedule is updated by the next time somebody appeals something.
Yeah.
Whenever that is.
But I think, I mean, personally, when I look at the fee schedule and I look at the costs that the time that it's gonna take her to deal with this appeal on something that's, you know, would have been a $4,000 appeal, could have been a $4,000 appeal. To me, that proves right there that if it's a large project like that, that appeal is probably valid in terms of that cost. And people have gotten smart. I mean, if the community wants to appeal it and create a friends group like they did in this instance, that's one way to come up with that money. But it also shows the buy-in if you're doing that. It's a huge cost on both sides.
And I don't even want to say it out loud, but I'm
Yeah,
going
that
to.
a lot.
I do that a lot, yeah. Any fee that the county imposes, there is always the opportunity for folks to request a waiver from us. And so my personal opinion is, again, I'm pretty swayed before that the fee schedules for those big projects are probably appropriate to the level of the expense that we're going to have into it. And there is the ability, if there is a community that really felt like, and the board thought that there was kind of an overriding, more of a public policy discussion to be had because of whatever the appeal was, we could entertain, you know, reducing that or doing something. And so I don't think that the ideas that folks are, was that the prosecutor? Oh,
No, that was me.
maybe that's my implant. That's
my ventriloquist.
No, I thought it was.
So, no, I mean, from what I'm hearing is, if I'm hearing correctly anyway, is that there's really only one of us that thinks there's an issue there. And if that's the case, I don't mind being the odd man out and being outvoted on whether we spend any time addressing it. So if you guys think it's a waste of time, I don't, but feel free to not go forward and waste time.
With the appeal thing, I think what we said earlier is if you can keep track of your time on this appeal, then we can put that in that hierarchy based on how much time and money we spent just of your time dealing with that appeal.
Right, but we had her going back and looking at all of the fees, not just appeal. So
Which will help though, like if she keeps track of the time spent on the appeal, and then we can figure that out. We can find out what the application cost should be for a multi-million-dollar project based on her time, and what the appeal fee should be based on her time, so that we can cover.
So it sounds like you don't get to take that off your list.
That's fine. I just need to, because the last week's workshop, my direction was to
Right.
bring a proposal back, and I just want to make sure that.
Right. I don't think you should.
Okay.
I think what I'm hearing, at least from two of us, is that we're gonna hold off on that part of it, but we want you to, in this under canvas appeal, to just collect the data as far as on you and the stat, what's going into this thing, because then based on that, we'll have the bigger discussion on the rest of it. I think I'm not saying I'm not interested. I am. I just think it's a lower priority for me right now compared to all these other things that we've got on.
And just a comment, I do appreciate that. But we do have appeal filed, not necessarily on multi-billion projects.
Right.
Not too long ago, we had a CBA appeal on the MDNS for a 2-lot short plat. That one was, presented before the commissioner. So
What did we charge for that?
that was $200 because
Like I said, my argument on the appeals is not that, some big giant, this under canvas thing that goes before may not end up at $8,000. My argument is on a smaller project, are we charging $8,000 on some items that only cost $4,000 and we're not refunding the other $4,000? Those to me are legal issues that could get us in hot water. And those are what I want to address, those are what I would like to, yes, handle far more than making some SEPA appeal for under canvas $200 and the county covers the other $10,000. So.
Okay. All right, do you have enough direction?
No.
I don't think the list got shorter.
No, I think we identified short term. I mean, the list was already under canvas. That has to be done. So that's obviously priority 1 right now for you. Shoreline.
No, before shoreline, you're going to have solar.
Solar, because we've got the 90-day, their 60-day. And for me, I wouldn't spend. The point of the hearing is to take testimony to determine what the next step is. So let's not anticipate what the next step is until we know what that step is. And so really what we need now, and I believe you have a draft as far as the actual resolution setting or ordinance. The ordinance setting the moratorium that sets the date, and we'll have to have some discussion about the hearing, the dates for the hearing, how are we going to advertise? We had some questions today from citizens as far as I can pretty confidently answer. We don't send notices to every citizen in the county.
Have no plans to.
And no, I mean, we don't do that. We will advertise and we will in our typical ways that we would for any ordinance, land use ordinance. And there is a assumption of responsibility from citizens to keep themselves informed and as far as what's going on, and they're afforded an opportunity to comment. I'm not going to go door to door and ask people to comment on things. And so based on what we hear at that hearing, we will determine what the next steps are, and that will definitely likely have an impact on that list at that time.
Right.
Okay.
So I said, I hate to give you numbers in order on that list because it's only going to last a month and it's going to change. So as I said, take your best guess at it.
I just tell the next emergency comes up.
Exactly.
As I said, a month.
Right.
I will have another discussion with Rob and then we'll figure out something from this.
Okay. Yeah. As far as the personnel piece of it, definitely.
That's going to be the hard part.
Okay.
Thank you, Mochi.
Yeah, thank you.
And then if you want to go like on a scouting trip to, interview potential
Maui.
Yeah. I heard they have really good land use.
Yeah.
Put that on the top of my list.
In Maui. You need to go. Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds like I'll supervise.
Yeah.
We'll take it on a solid waste budget. It will be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Ruby.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Economic Development, Natural Resource Director. Mr. McClure, discuss refilling, sounds like unfortunately, that's what we're discussing. Office manager position.
And just for a note, the assessor is going to be rescheduled.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, soft pedal this a little bit, hoping Rob will get back.
Yeah, that's,
Can we give him a minute?
sure.
You better find something else to talk about.
Yeah. How are things
My
otherwise?
best shadow.
I've seen your work.
It's my rough draft.
Yeah, I've seen your best. It's not bad. It's better than mine.
While Rob is out there, yeah, it's unfortunate that we do need to have that position filled. I think we've taken, I'm not sure it's an opportunity, but the time to relook at that a little bit. I quickly get to where I would like Rob in here. So maybe on a side discussion, I was listening earlier before I came over, and there was a mention of the funding that's coming. And it'd be interesting to maybe bring to you guys some thoughts on that, of like a chance to think of it. There's probably some opportunities to provide some needed support to businesses, and what form that takes and the timing of that need. Yeah, I think a discussion there. Understanding that there's a broader, what are we going to do with this wisely?
Like I say, I would rather have the other discussion first without having to do that, but I can be outvoted again.
He finally reminded me what was on my board pending.
Oh, too late. Nope, it's over.
Well, until Rob gets in here.
Yeah, Vern is circling.
So that was, I don't know if it was sent to all of us, but the mill, the Klickitat mill,
Yes.
we got the authorization, the way it was written, that we can go in and try to get that covenant on our piece removed. And I talked with Director McClure about that, and that looks like it's Public Works' baby to put in for that. Didn't talk to Gordy about it, but I would love if we could get started on that process of getting at least our portion, the covenant, pulled off so that we can do whatever we want.
Right. No, that's really good news, because it sounds like, no further action means actually no further action.
And where can we bring it right now? What's that note? I just read it quickly. Is that no further action at an industrial site?
No, I think it removes the covenant.
Wide open,
completely.
yeah.
From ours, from
The neighbor
Berry property, it stays.
Or
It
portions
stays.
of their property anyway.
Right.
So, yeah, to get that down where we'll be able, people to be, that might be interested in that property can look at it and have confidence
Right.
that it's clear of legacy contamination would be great.
And did anybody send that to Gordy as well, that document?
Yeah.
Okay, so we just
We
need to
need
get
to add that on the list for next Tuesday to
Right.
make sure he's aware of that. What's the next step?
We were on a call with the Department of Ecology and some other interested parties, other landowners. And we did request it go to the board. I think it was, the initial was maybe addressed to Richard Foster, but it should have gone to you guys as well.
Into Public Works. That's excellent news. That's been a
But we might have to
multi-decade.
kick him to get it going though.
Yeah.
Okay, Rob is back. So anyway, we've taken a look at this position, provided support to Ruby Solid Waste Department as well as Natural Resources and Economic Development. The position was functioning high. We were looking at doing a reclass and emphasizing very strong office management and accounting capabilities. Even before COVID, we were building in terms of workload there where it was getting crazy. Now that COVID has passed, I look at that last year as almost like a tidal wave where the tide has gone out on a lot of programs. The state agencies put projects on the hiatus, and so a lot of stuff just sort of fell to the wayside. We had the grant programs that kept us very busy, but all those other programs are starting to come back, and so we're backlogged. So what we've been talking about is maybe can we get authorization from the board to take a look at an office manager 2 position, and this is currently an office manager 1, so we'll move it to an office manager 2, and then get a clerical administrative assistant in there, and we're asking for a 1 year on that to reassess once we get out of this COVID, whether that workload is there continuing, or are we out of the woods and can move forward without that?
I believe part of the conversation was, to keep it open though when we put it out for announcement, to keep it open for manager 1 or 2, so that we might be able to get some pretty good qualified candidates. My department pays for 25% of Kirsten, which is kind of like 25% of 2 people, all in one tag. But and that roughly comes out to about $17,000 a year. So he kind of came up with some numbers where, like with the clerical, I would be paying a portion of that, as well as being able to have some of that money overage to go towards the management, the office manager position as well.
Just so I understand this, the request though, it would be a net increase of FTE. One FTE.
One FTE.
Yeah, for 1 year.
For 1 year, at least
1 year,
as
and
a
evaluate
trial.
where
Okay,
we
I just
are.
want to make sure we're all.
Yeah.
That's just funny to me, like in 1 year, we're gonna go, yeah, sorry, we're done with you, we're gonna let you go now. Don't see that happening, so.
I'd like to say, oh, we've done it before, but I can't recall.
Well, no, that would be-
We
that was the
did it over
FTE
COVID with
Oh.
who we brought in, and she was there for 6 months.
Yeah,
Right?
we did. That's true.
I think
Rob,
and then one on,
Well, I was thinking, couldn't you hire him as a casual that way, and
To put it in HR speak,
yeah,
he would need to, a verbal to revise his org chart and add an office manager 2 to the box. So it'd be a 1 or 2, so we can have the option. We would not add the casual clerical admin position to the box, because it would be casual. I mean, it wouldn't be added to the org chart because it's only limited for a year. It'd have to come back to you, be reapproved, before it could be added permanently. So there would be another step to move that up to a permanent position or a regular position. And we talked about, we recommended that he post a clerical at a 1, 2, or 3 to give him the full range of when he's out recruiting and looking for a skill set for the clerical. If we do 1, he'll find a 2 or 3. If you do a 3, he'll find a 1 or a 2. So he can only have 1, but it gives him the full range of the clerical experience as he's advertising. So we can do it. And then we estimated if the office manager 1 or 2 should balance out. There's a grade higher than it is now, so with 9 months left in the year, so that should be a wash financially. But the cost of adding the casual will be, what did we come up with?
It's about 35,000.
Because it'll be a DRS, it'll qualify for retirement, we'll have to pay the 9% for that. So it's about 35,000. That was for 9 months. That was for the end of the year. I didn't realize you wanted to go 12, so that'd be next year's budget. So
can we use these COVID monies to pay that 35,000 for the casual?
Well, the commissioners can do anything they choose.
It's
Yes.
direct or indirect, we could, yes.
Initial direction was you didn't want to incur an expense that went on past the first year, but.
Well, it sounds like this,
employee, right?
this is not going on past the first year guaranteed.
Yes, so.
Where are you gonna house them?
That's going to be an interesting day.
so, I actually have room in my office that I'm more than willing to.
Your new office or your old office?
Oh, the old office, because in my new office, I don't have any room.
Well, that's really helpful for the next
Yeah.
little bit.
But we.
Your old office is going to the fairgrounds very, very soon.
In the new building, we actually have some cubicles. So there'll be room to house. And then of course we'd have that main person to be in that front office as we have Kirsten, now. So, but until we get there, we can make some concessions on how we're going to, kind of share some space. we've been pretty good at sharing the space that we've had. And, it'll work.
And I've got two staff that are splitting their weeks, working remote, working in office. So we could dance between those two offices.
And we've been balancing out pretty good with that too.
What about the other position for economic development? How does that fit into this? And when are you looking at that? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
If you hadn't, I was going to. So.
Other position?
Yeah, he has an approved position that hasn't been filled.
Oh.
Another Richard.
Which was, when did this, that we didn't have before, this is a new position that hasn't been filled?
Last year, I budgeted for a new economic development specialist, and then COVID hit. So we put a lot of natural resources on hiatus, and Commissioner Anderson came over and worked in economic development a lot and basically filled that time. And then we got a part-time, so.
Yeah, he wasn't scoring those, Washington grants for salmon recovery.
So the funding I put in there for this
were
new
working in it
position
for
basically
economic
went to help with a temporary hire and with Commissioner Anderson billing to economic development instead of natural resources.
Okay, so I'm trying to, just to make sure I know what I'm talking about or understand the situation. You now have permission to have one more FTE than you had a year ago and the year before that and the year before that. And this is for an ask for a second new FTE.
I budgeted it last year. I did not come in and get authorization. I did not have authorization to add it to my staff yet. That was a conversation, a final.
Okay.
The money was put there.
Put the money there.
But last year, we were directed to maintain staffing levels and budgets, no increases. So I did not put those dollars into this year's budget.
So the new position was not put in this year's budget?
That's correct.
Oh, okay. I thought you did keep it in there.
Probably
There's
120,000.
There's still the need, because we've got an economic development strategy that's not being implemented as aggressively as it should be, in my opinion. And I think in terms of the EDA board's recommendation, that recommendation for the additional staff came a couple of years ago, and we've just been sort of holding off. So I think we've got a conversation to have on that. But right now I've got this immediate thing, and if I've got to pick between the two, I've got to fill this office manager and administrative support.
So you're saying you're not going to come back asking for the?
No, I didn't say that. Come back. That's another conversation.
This year?
We'll see about this year, hopefully.
So I'm not having heartburn with the office manager part of it at all. My heartburn is with the other part of it.
Which other part? Just so I understand.
Sounds like all the other part.
All the other part.
With what I know of our budget right now, and the decisions we're going to have to be making this year, and possible future considerations with solid waste, fiscal responsibility is important to me.
And I'm
part
hearing
of
those, it's sensitive to what you're saying.
our
This challenge before, yeah.
right. The transfer from the 09 account that's now funding a portion.
Right.
What's that number has looked like? Because that was part of the discussion.
I'd have to go back and take a look. I apologize. It's down a little bit in terms of, it's typically 20% of previous year. I think last year was down a little bit.
Right.
But we also got 40,000, but that's compensating for how much we're putting in the small business development center person.
Right. No, that was a wash, because that was to pay for that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, I mean, at least for
this
me,
other staff person, I'd like to see how that SBDC
person plays into it.
Played into
Person
it.
plays in the
That's
mix.
a really good answer.
of
That's a good
competencies
answer.
We've got.
Because it may
before.
be unnecessary if we, I mean, we are,
Oh, it's not a.
well, no, but we're adding another person, another FTE. We're splitting it with Skamania, but it's not 100%, but it's 60%
Yeah,
already.
some of what they're doing, and
So
maybe.
you are actually bringing 0.6 FTE online in the county right now already. So
How does that
that's,
affect our workload?
Exactly.
I'd like to see that a little bit.
yeah.
You know, the funny thing is he's one of the few that's never been an empire builder.
No. No, the only thing he defends really well is his budget. As far as he never, because he has all these different, little piles or.
I didn't say he didn't have tentacles.
No. And so we'll say, we'll get, asked for things and we're like, oh, and you're like, oh yeah, you can pay for that out of this little, and then before the end of the year, he's always during the budget process, reminding us that we need to put that money back because we borrowed it, basically.
I've never had to have a conversation to you about my red ink.
No, you have not. You have not.
Plan on it.
think he asked for a vehicle this year.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's gotten easier because it was not that long ago that department was not on the VRNR. Which never made any sense to me. And so it literally, you had to, it's like, well, it's worn out. We have to buy a whole new vehicle, not a little bit at a time. And so I was glad when we got rid of that.
That's why we didn't have a nice vehicle.
That's right. It's like, come back next year.
I'll be honest, replacing Kirsten, if you hire somebody tomorrow, you got the training and all that, as well as you have the efficiencies of knowledge and understanding all these different things. I don't see how one person can step in there and replace it. And so the clerical for 9 months or whatever at the end of the year makes sense to me. Because when we were going through COVID and we had that clerical person in there, they were both going full time. And now that we're ramping all the other programs back up, I think you're going to see that they're 6+ months behind on a lot of stuff, and they need that help.
And I think I need to recognize too here that even with that position has been functioning at a very high level, in my opinion. And I think that I'm going to, at least for the near term, going to be, looking to the auditor's office to provide a little more support, or I'll be putting more weight on them than before. And Public Works has always been helpful, so I may be leaning on them a little bit more than I've had to over the last several years. So there's still going to be some effect there, getting someone up to speed.
Yeah, at least for me, I'm fine with office manager, the 1, 2, or to the 2. I do see the need at least for the short run in the extra clerical work, and I can support that. And then we'll look at it. I do want to have a conversation later though, because I think this is eligible for COVID, or I don't know what we're calling the latest thing, but the stimulus, yeah. Other money. So I think we'll be fine there. I do want to have a discussion, and this would have to go back to the KC about one of the things, and we were going to have this conversation regardless, just because of the pressures long-term sustainably on the county's budget about that 20%, having to maybe adjust that to help pay, because it was zero. We just paid 100% of the cost, and we have, there are jurisdictions that their department's 100% funded from those dollars. We're only tapping 20% of that fund, and we might need to change that number. I'm assuming up, so that it's helping to fund a little bit more of this and take some of the pressure off the landfill general fund. Well, landfill, because those resources are not inexhaustible or assured.
I think it-
based on our conversation last week.
Some of the discussions on the.
You hear
state
Brett being sucked in all over the
state budget that we might be getting an increase in our EDA grant, if the budget moves through, so hopefully that.
Yeah, I heard that yesterday too, that they're talking
How much?
shoving some more to the ADOs.
Maybe another 25 to 50,000.
So some, yeah.
Perfect. It covers our clerical person for at least his portion of it.
Right.
Well,
We know where her money comes from.
Again, office manager, fine. The temporary, my thinking was paying it out of the COVID dollars, because I don't want to make a budgeted item in there, because for me, this is a short-term position until we hit budget season and prove it otherwise.
Okay.
Because I'm, if the budget's great, fine. If the budget's bad, hiring employees is a bad idea, and I will be a no on reallocating funds to that position.
So if there's an office manager 2 position, is there any chance that you can talk to the departing person to apply for an office manager 2 position?
Talk to whom?
The departing person to apply for an office manager 2
No,
position?
I think
That ship has sailed?
Yeah. Once you make a decision, then the die is pretty much cast.
Well, and I guess questioning that
Is
is
it really on, are the
Not that I
lines off
haven't
the dock? Are you sure?
Well, there's a little workload.
Position, she might apply for it.
If we went over that position and readjusted it and came out with the pay scale, how are we now looking for someone to fill that position at a higher pay scale? I don't understand that.
Apples and oranges.
Yeah.
Okay. He intends to bring forward that new position at a later date, put on his org chart, just to have it on there and not fill it. But that's at a grade 40. The office manager 2 is a grade 38. Currently, the office manager 1 is a 37. So the new hybrid is considerably higher than.
Yeah, so so it's a no.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
The ship sailed and is not coming.
Let's say that answers my question in part of that.
Sorry,
40
I
wasn't-
thought 2 was bigger than 1.
One, yeah,
Silly me.
If it's less than
Yeah.
another one.
different one.
And we still have a workload issue.
So,
Okay.
well, for the resolution we'll have to put together, can I get a clarification? Is the clerical position 12 months, or is it through the end of the year, which would be 9 months? If it's 12 months, which is, that's what he's requesting, fine, we'll have to go through the budget process for 3 months of the next year, so which we'll be building shortly.
I'd rather stay in the budget year if we could, because we don't know. I know it makes it hard, but it is a temporary casual. To Commissioner Christopher's concern, it isn't going on the org chart. It doesn't.
Right.
It's a temporary until it goes through so it's really not even
9 months.
Yeah, I guess it is 9 months. I guess this is March, but maybe you'll have it filled.
8.5.
8.5.
Well, if when we go through the budget, it wants to be extended, then we can address it then.
Yeah,
It would be on that
you'll
budget.
submit your request then, as far as like we do for many staff people.
Good luck filling the positions.
Yeah.
We get good pulls on the clerical admin position.
Oh.
Been pretty successful, like 6 months or so. So,
Great.
pretty-
Okay.
Meeting authorization to.
We got a verbal, my understanding.
No, follow up with some
Put in
paper.
writing.
So you need written authorization to advertise?
Typically, typically you allow us to post while we're bringing back.
Yeah, no, go.
Yeah.
Go for it. Do good work.
We'll be.
Thank you. I always want to say that.
If we change our mind, then it's, well, never mind. We changed our mind.
I don't know. I know he said it to me for 5 years, so I get to say it back.
Commissioner, do you have time before you go, a question about the evening RFP?
Yeah.
You can stop by, if not, I can call you.
Sure, I can stop.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you. And the assessor has rescheduled her discussion on her potential office reorg.
I guess HR manager had to leave for the afternoon and she was not gonna be here.
Oh,
They will
KC wasn't.
schedule.
Okay. Okay. Any other topics?
59, I'll make it.
I think Gordy might be on the line if you wanted to bring up the mill site.
Oh,
That's a good idea.
okay. Before we do that, is the auditor on here? I see Brenda, I see you're on. I don't know if you're paying attention or if this is your.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, I was trying to unmute, but I was clicking the wrong button. Sorry. Now I got in about 12:15 today. I apologize. I missed this morning's meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to give you an opportunity as far as what, I'm happy that you were able to be aware as far as that, we're going to be opening the courthouse tomorrow with the understanding that it's up to individual departments and electeds as far as what you're going to do or your policies are. If you don't mind sharing, what is your plan for tomorrow? Because you're in this building, you're the probably number one desired destination in this courthouse right now. You're a destination.
You wouldn't, yeah, that's hard to believe, Dave. Well, I only want 3 in the lobby. There's not a 6-foot distancing. If you go more than that, I don't think you could have 6-foot distancing, even though I was told that my occupancy level is 8 for that lobby at 50%. 16, man, I'll tell you
Wow,
what, that'd be a lot in there. 8 people, there's no way you can have the social distancing. So it's going to be 3 people, not counting the veteran service office and they're going to have to wait in the hall. And so I have a few questions. You're opening all of the doors, right?
I believe so.
Yes.
Up for yours.
Okay.
Except for your door is up to you.
Well, I
You're
can't
gonna be doing
wait if I
appointments,
don't
or you're
unlock
gonna be
it.
doing first come, first serve.
I don't have the time now to keep up on what's coming in through email and phone calls in the mail. There is absolutely no way I'm going to be able to make appointments. I mean, you don't understand. We're probably 3 to 4 weeks behind. And we have been busting our tails and working overtime and multiple people working the counter whenever somebody's at lunch. It's absolutely been horrendous this past year. So if you're inferring that I might consider setting up appointments, respectfully, I'm not saying this to be snarky, that's a joke. I just don't have the manpower to do it.
So,
yes.
Brenda, for everybody sitting outside, or standing outside, do you need something on the floor, a piece of tape or something laid down so that people can queue up?
That's not my decision. There's only going to be 3 come in that door. I am not in charge of the building. Gordy and you guys are.
Right, but I'm still asking like how you want it from your perspective, other than, 3 people in the door. You want people queuing up. You're not going to do tickets or anything. I guess that would be an appointment.
I don't have a machine to do tickets because I didn't have at least a week to get a machine ordered or something. Seriously, I was like, okay, we're going to open tomorrow. So, if somebody has a numbering machine and they want to use it, I'll be happy to do that. But I don't really think that's going to work very well either, but I will try it. I'm open to any, I'm game to try something. That's what I'll say. It's just kind of like, wow, okay.
You can't yell through a door and they're not coming out. I don't see how a numbering machine would work.
Unless you've got the thing inside to turn the number outside.
No, the only way I see
Right.
is putting some black tape on the ground and you stand here.
I don't know what the plan is.
Don't come in unless somebody walks out.
Well, that's the thing is, I don't know if I'm going to need to have my door open so that somebody can see when somebody walks out. If somebody's at recording, that's going to, that's one of the 3. And I'm just hoping everybody's respectful. So here's a question for you guys.
Yes.
What happens, which it's going to happen, if I get more than 3 people in here and I try to get them removed? and they won't leave.
Call the sheriff.
Seriously. And he's gonna tell me to call the city because I'm in the city. The sheriff doesn't have jurisdiction here.
Sheriff doesn't have jurisdiction in this building.
Nope,
No, we're in the city.
nope.
The post office is an example of the way it might work. They do have marks on the outside of the main enclosure there.
They
And
do.
people, I've only been there maybe 3 times since this all happened, but so far people have been respectful. They wait.
And then they
and
move
when someone
forward.
comes out, the next person can go in and they just.
Well, that's good.
Hey, Brenda, all you have to do is tell them, if you're not following my rules, I'm shutting the door and locking it and you're not gonna get served.
Right, the crowd will, the crowd will take care of itself. That's right.
Well, that's true, but here's the other thing. Many of the people don't understand that we're independently elected officials, and you can ask Commissioner Sauter. Let me shut my door just a moment.
Uh-oh, this is gonna really, understanding, Brenda, this is a live public meeting.
I understand that, but what I'm not saying, I get that, Dave, but what I'm saying is, people don't understand that, like the assessor, the clerk, and the auditor and treasurer are independently elected officials. A lot of people do not. I won't say everyone. And so the first thing they do is call a county commissioner to try to get you guys to make us shape up.
Right.
Just to be blunt. So if I go doing that and I can lock the door, I can, but your phones are gonna ring too.
We know, they ring already.
Yeah.
They've been ringing for a year.
Yeah, you do what you need to
Sorry, out of
do.
my control.
But if you're having issues, you can threaten them and they say, well, we'll call the county commissioner, say, the county commissioners agreed with me that if people aren't following the rules, I have to lock the door. It's a liability, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, I'm.
Let's assume positive intent, and it's people, I think the vast majority of people are going to be respectful and are going to.
I think I need to get here 10 minutes before the courthouse opens so I can be the first one in line.
All right, well then don't you be the one.
Well, licensing doesn't open till 8:30. My staff works 8 to 5, licensing's 8:30 to 4:30.
Okay.
So,
And don't
but
you
yeah.
be using your position to gain favor?
If I was using my position to gain favor, my paperwork would already be notarized and turned in correctly.
You should have notarized your paperwork and done that a while ago.
What kind of notary do you need, Dan?
What's
What
that?
do you need- What do you need for a notary?
We bought a car in Oregon and they did all the paperwork and they submitted it to you, but the signatures aren't notarized. So
So-
they inter-office that down to me and then I'm gonna take them somewhere to get them notarized and turn it back in.
You take it to Riverview, but if we're open, that's the problem right here, is that's why we're behind. And, first off, I want to say, it came back to me from one of my staff that was listening in this morning that you were concerned about how it was going to affect my office. I truly appreciate that. I'm not trying to be a smart aleck right now. I'm just like, but I really, truly appreciate that, how it's going to affect my office and that you wanted to talk to me. I really, truly appreciate that. So part of the reason, back to my question to you, Dan, was, when people come in, we can look at their driver licenses and we can verify who they are. We can certify their signatures. When we are closed to the public, we can't do that.
Right, well, and that's where I was going with Jake, where he was saying I'm using my power. I'm like, no, I could have just called up there and said, no, this is me, and probably got it through. But I wanted to follow the same regulations that the masses were following and not.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing. When we're closed to the public, DOL doesn't want us certifying signatures, like people that come to the courthouse and we go out there or something. They don't want us certifying signatures. Now, once we open to the public tomorrow, we'll be able to do that. But even if you'd have done it, we couldn't. Heather, I could have notarized it for you, but the girls, none of us could have. I say the girls because that's all I have working in licensing. We couldn't have, certified it for you.
Well, I think we could probably, if you're gonna be that busy tomorrow, the commissioners can take a vote and vote to add another FTE by the name of Sauter to your staff tomorrow, and he can come help out if you need it.
You know what? That would
Security
be
in the
awesome
hallway.
if we could have an extra person, but it takes a while to get up to speed and to be able to even log into a state DOL computer. But that's a nice thought, Dan. Thank you.
You don't even get to be a sergeant at arms.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I don't know what
Another
you're,
thing that you could think about is seeing if Bob wants some posse in the building just to maintain order. I don't think it's needed, but if it comes down to it, that's an option.
Yeah, I would say we'll deal with it if we need to. I'm not gonna assume that. Just like we would have, I'm sure you've had difficult people, as we all have.
oh, yeah.
And
Through the years.
you get your fair share because there is definitely more people run through your office than, more public run through your office than anybody else, probably the rest of us put together, but we've all had some special people before and.
Yes,
we've had
exactly.
to-
And I've had to call law enforcement. I've had to call city before, and it's not a pleasant thing. I've had to have people removed, and I don't understand why people have to act like that. I really don't. But there are people out there, like you say, Dave, that just seem to think that's the behavior they need to display.
Right.
So
I will have a discussion today before I leave with the sheriff and just give him a heads up, because we haven't actually had an interaction with him. And, Bob's always been really good about if there's a concern about, when we've had public hearings and stuff where we're expecting it could be contentious, he's always made sure that there's officers available in the building or maybe posse members, something. And I think that's a good idea tomorrow for the opening. Just again, I don't think you're gonna have any trouble, but I don't think it's unreasonable to have concerns about that. And I don't want to speak for the sheriff, but I suspect he'll make sure that there's, that you got some backup.
okay, well, that's nice. And, they have come up, before until city got here when there was a problem. But I do truly appreciate you guys being concerned about how it's going to affect my office. And I am just, my flip comment about that's not my problem. It's yours about the hallway. The thing of it is, I'm gonna have my hands full with my own office. And it's been made very clear to me in the past that the building outside and inside is your responsibility.
Yes.
So I guess I'm gonna play on that card.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I didn't mean to be flip. I was just like, oh my goodness. So.
Okay, well, good luck tomorrow. And I will be, like, if you seriously get somebody and they're like, I'm gonna call the commissioners, I'll have my phone on.
Yeah.
You just dial it for them and I'll talk to them.
I'll just say, go for it. You need the number?
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
for all.
really. There it is.
Yeah, but I mean, it is funny that, and I'm sure through the years, Dave, you've gotten plenty of calls in the different electeds, and a lot of people just don't understand that we're not your employees.
Right. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
well, thank you.
all righty.
And good luck tomorrow.
Well, yeah, and good luck with you guys monitoring how many people are in the building.
I know, we will. It'll be okay.
Just come to my office. You'll find out.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Brenda.
Yeah.
So do we want to reach out to Gordy to have him put tape on the floor every 6 feet? All the way down the hall and down the steps?
Or her, and then maybe just outside the hall for treasurer, and just outside the hall for the assessor.
Yeah, I mean, I would anyway, just since you're there with
Yeah, with tape
some
and tape.
painter's tape, you might as well handle it.
Yeah.
That would probably be wise. I don't know that the rest of the offices are gonna get stampeded, but hers will.
Well, we gotta pay our taxes here shortly.
Yeah, they're gonna start coming in.
Mr. Chairman, if there's nothing else for the agenda, I would make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, second?
I will second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the regular meeting. We have no workshop scheduled this week, which seems shocking.
I think we've given them too much work.
I
They
know.
didn't even come back for a week.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I got other things to bring up.
No,
I ain't
no,
bringing them
just-
up because there's way too much on the plate already.
Already, so, All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. We are
Thank you,
adjourned.
everyone who's been listening on the phone all day.
Yes.